Letters Just for You, a Dompas Upgrade Volume 1, The Architect Letters Just for You, a Dompas Upgrade Volume 1, The Architect Pride D. Mpofu Copyright Page Copyright 2026 by Pride D. Mpofu All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopying, recording, or by any information storage and retrieval system, without permission in writing from the publisher. Some names and identifying details have been changed to protect the privacy of individuals. The stories are true. First edition, 2026, printed in South Africa. Dedication for Maya and Brittany. You were the question I never knew I was asking. You are the answer I'll spend my life earning. And for the ones who taught me how to write, my mother who fought to see me graduate, my father who waited by the water, my brothers who shared the mattress. This is yours, I was just the pen. Epigraph. The tree I planted yesterday will never shade me, but someone will sit under it. That was always the point. From my father's fishing journal, a note on the Dompas. This book carries a weight you may not have asked for. The Dompas, the Passbook, was a tool of control. For generations our people carried it. Without its stamp you could not move, could not work, could not exist in certain spaces. The official at the gate decided whether you belonged. That state is gone. But its ghost sits at the gate of your mind. The voice that tells you are not enough. That is the ghost of the Passbook. The voice that tells you to wait for permission. That is the official asking for papers that no longer exist. The voice that tells you to stay in your lane. That is the line they drew before you were born. This book is not a new Passbook. It is a key that fits a door you did not know was there. Stage 1 is called The Architect. It is about building the inner world. About learning to see the voice for what it is. The Dompas was a tool of control. Its ghost still asks for permission. You are not someone who learns to fill out the Passbook correctly, not someone who earns the right to sign it. Rather, someone who realizes the Passbook was never yours to carry. You build an inner world so complete that the official at the gate becomes irrelevant, not because the gate disappears, but because you no longer stop to ask. This is the upgrade, not a new Passbook, but the freedom to walk past the gate without looking back. A note on names. You will notice that family members are referred to in specific ways throughout these letters. This is intentional, a small map to help you navigate the people who shaped this story. Your Uncle Sifo, we usually call him Sledge. He is Brittany's father. His name means gift, and he is one. Your Uncle Rasta, the nickname stuck because of his Rastafarian spirit. He is the one with the mantra, take it easy, Rasta, everything's gonna be all right. Your Uncle Dion, the youngest, the one we left behind on those fishing trips. He took care of me when I could not stand on my own. Your Uncle Melvin, more than a friend, a brother. He gave me language for what I was already living. Your Uncle Paul, my goat for anything financial. We have been through chaos together and we are still standing. Brittany, your sister. Her father's your Uncle Sledge. The relationship is simple, she's your sister. Full stop. Your Aunt Lynette, the firstborn, helped Mom cook, showed up when it mattered without being asked. Your Aunt Samantha, the lastborn, the one our mother loved most. She carries Mom's face. She taught you to swim. Your grandmother Sue, my mother. She fought cancer, smiled through it, and named your Uncle Sifo Gift. Your grandfather, my father. He drove 800 kilometers to take his boys fishing. He taught me presence. Your mother, our heartbeat. She carries us all. And you, Maya and Brittany. These letters are just for you. PD author's note. The ritual. These letters were not written to be published. They were written to one person, on ordinary days, after moments that mattered. A fall from a bicycle in a parking lot. A blue-eyed boy who sat too close in class. A fight in a mall that left me smaller than I had ever felt. A long drive home from a dam where the water was dark and the fire was low. I wrote them because I wanted my daughter to know something I didn't learn until I was old enough to wish I'd learned them sooner. I wrote them because my mother couldn't write hers. She ran out of time, and my father never wrote at all. He just sat by the water and waited for us to speak. When I started, I thought I was teaching. Somewhere along the way, I realized I was remembering. I learned the hard way, that the voice in her head telling her she is not enough is not her voice. It is the ghost of a system that needed her to believe she needed permission. This book is not a collection of advice. It is a ritual, a modern secular lebolo, an initiation into the thing you already are. Each letter is a rupture. Something of the old you will die here. Something of the architect will be born. The names are real because the people are. My mother Sue, who fought cancer with the same hands she used to braid my sister's hair. My father, who drove 800 kilometers through the dark to take his boys fishing and called it an investment. My brothers Sifo, Rasta, Dion, Melvin, Paul, who shared one mattress in a shack and became the men who taught me what loyalty costs. Maya appears in every letter, not as a character, as proof she is the one who fell, the one who asked, the one who crept back to my study door hours after rolling her eyes. She is the reason these words exist. Brittany is there too, in the iPad she gave when she had nothing to give, in the sisterhood still becoming. In the way she says Malum like it means safe place. One day I showed Maya a draft. She read it carefully, so carefully she noticed I had left out William. She said it gave her confidence. Nobody had ever taken me seriously as a writer before, but she did. That is when I realized, this book does not exist because of me. It exists because of her. Because of the cord that binds us, what the Shona call Ukama, the relatedness that extends beyond blood to ancestors, to the land, to the ones who come after. Yes, Malum and Giavuma, it's good. She believed in me before anyone else did. Nobody had ever taken me seriously as a writer before, but they did, both of them. That's when I realized this book doesn't exist because of me. It exists because of them, not just as the subjects, as the inspiration. I grew up before smartphones, before the algorithm learned my hunger, before I knew it myself. I grew up around evening fires, listening to simple life stories laced with lessons. That is how I learned. That is how the generations before me learned. The fire, the silence, the story that carries the weight. When I became a father, I saw that world had vanished. This one is louder, faster, blurrier. I did not want to lecture her on a reality I never lived. I did not want to fix her, she was never broken. So I did the only thing I knew. I wrote her letters. Stories, just like the ones told by the fire. They are not abstract, premium life stories. They are simple lived experiences, falling off a bicycle, stealing R10 from my mother's purse, getting strung by a scorpion, watching 4 brothers survive a shack with 1 mattress. Stories that were packed with so much knowledge, but you needed certain eyes to see the lessons. It took me years to develop those eyes. I am no writer, I have no academic credentials, but I was raised by lessons through real life stories. And when I saw those letters working in her life, in her sister's life, even in the adults who proofread them, I understood the book had outgrown me. The response kept coming, I am learning. That was never the plan, but maybe that's the point. The fire stories weren't planned either, they just worked. I'm here now, with eyes wide open, handing my daughters the vision it took me years to find. If you are reading this and you are not Maya or Brittany, welcome. You are now part of the ritual. These letters are for you too, not because they were written to you, but because what I have learned about inheritance is this: it does not ask permission, it just keeps moving. This is Volume 1, The Architect. It is about the inner world, who you are when no one is watching, the architecture of self. Volume 2 will be about the outer world, relationships, influence. How the tools you build here apply to others. Volume 3 will be about legacy, what outlasts, and waking up to who you are. Read slowly, read more than once, write in the margins, argue with me if you need to. These are not instructions, they are an invitation. Come sit by the water. Pride D. Mpofu, Johannesburg, 2026. Something to remember before you begin: you are not reading this book. You are entering it. You will not finish this book the same person who picked it up. That is the point. Something of the old you will die here. Something of the architect will be born. You will learn to fall without breaking, to move without rushing, to wait without wasting, to jump without seeing the landing. You will learn that the inner world is not to keep you safe, it is to make you ready. The people who will catch you are already waiting. The ones who will hold you are already there. The strangers who will become windows are already walking toward you. You just have to let yourself be seen. You just have to let yourself be initiated. The water is waiting. How to read this book: you do not have to read it straight through. You can start where you are. Pick the letter that speaks to where you are standing right now. But if you do read it straight through, you will notice something. The letters build on each other. They move from the observer to the space between, to the dashboard, to the stories you tell yourself. They move from your own lane to the glasses you wear, to owning your mess. They move from the storm to the jump, to the yes that knows the no. They move from the shelf to the armor, to falling without breaking. They move from little moves to tomorrow's eyes, to the push and the pivot. They move from waiting to your own scorecard to the door. 20 letters, 1 door. Take your time. Sit with the questions, write in the margins. The questions are not homework, they are stones for your monument. Table of contents: letter 1, the observer letter 2, the space between letter 3, the dashboard letter 4, the stories you tell yourself letter 5, your race, your lane letter 6, the glasses that color your world letter 7, OWNG your mess letter 8, walking taller than your fear letter 9, the storm inside you letter 10, JUMPNG anyway letter 11, every yes is a no letter 12, the SHELVED heart letter 13. The invisible AIMOR letter 14, falling without breaking letter 15, little moves, big impact letter 16, seeing with tomorrow's EYES letter 17, push or pivot letter 18, ready before the world letter 19, your own scorecard letter 20, the door. Introduction: a letter just for MYH, my love. I remember that day like it was yesterday. We had already done a couple of laps around the block. I was running beside you, my breath heavy, watching you pedal. We were both tired. I suggested we practice in the parking lot. Then the ground got the better of you. You fell hard. I heard the scrape of skin on tar before I saw the tears. The sound stopped my heart for a second. As I watched you cry, I felt the weight of being an adult. I didn't have life figured out in that moment. I had 2 paths in front of me. I could have panicked. I could have scooped you up, told you it was okay, and carried the bike upstairs to the safety of our home. Carry you inside, kiss the wound, fix everything. Instead, I stayed quiet. I waited. I watched you through my own uncertainty. You wiped your tears. You took a moment, then you picked up that bicycle. You did not go upstairs. You kept riding. In that moment, you were brave for me. You taught yourself to be strong because I gave you the space to choose it. That moment taught me something I have carried ever since. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is give someone space to find their own strength. These letters are me giving you that space on paper. I did not know if they would work. I did not know if you would read them or if they would just sit in a drawer. Then one day I showed you a draft. You read it carefully, so carefully you noticed I had left out William. You said it gave you confidence. In that moment, you were not just my daughter. You were my first editor, my first believer. Weeks later, I mentioned your uncle Rasta. You asked, but he's your friend, isn't he? I said, brother, same blood. You said, I get that he's your brother, but is he not your friend? I laughed. You were right, he is both. You saw something I had forgotten to name, still teaching me, still seeing what I miss. You were born on 18 July 2013. I thought to myself, here was my daughter, arriving on the calendar of a man who spent 27 years planting trees he would never sit under. And here I was, writing letters I might never see you fully read. Some things are too perfect to be coincidence. Some things are the ancestors winking. Your mother called you Atalhang. For me it was a no-brainer. Maya sounds like Maya, an ancient word for illusion, for the blur, the thing that looks one way but is another, like the sun seeming to move across the sky when really it is the earth turning. These letters are my attempt to clear the blur. I travelled a lot. I suppose that's why I was gone so much. But in those travels I met people from all walks of life. People who seemed different in almost every way, yet somewhere deep down we are all one people. I saw the same hopes, the same struggles, the same humanity everywhere I went. Your mother would call sometimes just to say, come home safe, that's all I ask. I have seen the banking systems and the production lines, but those things are not the masterpiece. You are. When I was your age, I did not know I was forming beliefs about myself. I did not know that every comment, every comparison, every mistake was quietly shaping how I saw myself. Nobody told me, be careful what you repeat to yourself, so I wasn't. I told myself I wasn't smart enough. I told myself I wasn't good enough. I told myself other people had something I didn't. Those small sentences became walls, not because they were true, because I repeated them. That's how powerful the mind is. Maya, your mind is not just a thinking machine, it is a builder. Every thought you repeat becomes a brick. Every belief becomes a wall or a doorway. Right now you are building the house you will live inside for the rest of your life. That house is your mindset. Some days you're stubborn. You challenge me. You have this fire in you that I hope you never lose. But I also see you looking at yourself in the mirror sometimes. I see you scrolling through your phone, looking at people you don't even know, and I wonder what sentences are forming in your head. Are you building a house with big windows, Maya? Or are you building a cage? I wrote these letters because I want you to have the tools. I want you to know how to pick up the bricks and decide which ones stay and which ones go. I want you to be the architect, not just the tenant. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware. It's about understanding that the world is very loud, but your own voice is the only one you have to live with every single night. Nobody had ever taken me seriously as a writer before, but you did. You and your sister Brittany, in your own ways, believed in me before anyone else. That's when I realized this book doesn't exist because of me. It exists because of all of you, not just as the subjects, as the inspiration. So make me a promise. Don't read this to get a grade. Don't read it because I'm making you. Read it because you deserve to know the truth. The world is about to get very loud, my love. Are you ready to listen to yourself? The bricks are waiting. Let's start building. With love, Dad. Letter 1, The Observer, Volume 1. The Architect, my love. I want to tell you about the first time I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. When I was young, my mother trusted me a lot. Too much, maybe. I knew where she kept her purse in the top drawer of her wardrobe under folded duck she never wore anymore. I'd watched her put it there 100 times. Watched her come home, walk that same path, do that same routine, day after day. One afternoon, she came home from work. I heard the gate, heard her keys, heard her footsteps on the concrete. I knew her routine like I knew my own name. Bedroom first to put her things down. Then kitchen to start supper, like clockwork. The moment I heard the kitchen tap run, I moved, slipped into her bedroom, pulled open the drawer, opened the purse. There it was, coins, notes, everything. I took our 10, 2 our 5 coins. They felt warm in my palm, heavy, like they weighed more than money. I was so sure she wouldn't notice. There was always money in there. Always. She wouldn't even know it was gone. That's what I told myself. That's what I needed to tell myself. I got caught. Of course I got caught. Mothers always know. They don't need to count coins. They just know. She didn't shout. That's the thing I remember most. She didn't shout. She just looked at me. And that look was worse than any beating, any lecture, any punishment. It was disappointment. Pure quiet. Heavy disappointment, like I had broken something she didn't know could break. She gave me a long lecture on trust. I don't remember the words, I remember the weight of them. How they sat on my chest for days. I promised never to do it again. And funny thing is, I actually kept that promise. That was the narrator at work telling me a story that wasn't true. She won't notice. You'll get away with it. There's always more money. She won't even know. I believed it. I acted on it, and I paid for it. That voice lives inside all of us. I call it the narrator. For generations, our people carried a Dompas, a passbook. Without its stamp, you could not move, could not work, could not exist in certain spaces. The official at the gate decided whether you belonged. That state is gone. But its ghost sits at the gate of your mind, the voice that tells you you are not enough. That is the internalized official. The The voice that tells you to wait for permission. That is the passbook asking for papers that no longer exist. The voice that told me she won't notice. That was the ghost of a system that taught us to believe we could steal what we needed because the world would never give it to us freely. You are the one who signs the book now. But first you have to learn to see the official standing at the gate. I met the observer fully years later, in a car with your mother. Years later, your mother and I were driving home after a long week. I was tired, the kind of tired that sits in your bones and refuses to move. She said something, I don't even remember what, about a decision I'd made. It wasn't criticism. It was a question, just a question, but I didn't hear a question. I heard an attack. Before I could think, I snapped, my voice sharp, my words cutting, like a knife I didn't know I was holding. The car went silent. She didn't say another word for 20 minutes. 20 minutes of silence in a moving car is a long time. You hear everything, the engine, the tires on the road, your own breathing. The echo of what you just said. By the time we got home, I'd already forgotten what she'd said, but I couldn't forget the silence, or the look on her face. That same look my mother gave me all those years ago. Disappointment, quiet, heavy. Later that night, lying awake, I replayed it, the whole scene, frame by frame, her question, my snap, the silence, her face, and I realized she hadn't attacked me. She'd asked a question. The attack happened entirely inside my head. I'd reacted to a story I made up, not to what she actually said. Something in me watched the replay, watched myself snap, watched the silence stretch, watched her face fall, and in that watching, for the first time, I saw the gap, the tiny space between what she said and how I responded, a space I'd never noticed before, and then I remembered the dam. When I was 13, my father would take us to Heartfelt Dam, 800 kilometers one way. 3 days of fishing, camping, sitting by the water. He'd make coffee with whiskey in the late hours and wait for us to speak. The fire would burn low, the water would go black. The only sound was the occasional fish jumping or the wind moving through the grass, and my father would just sit, rod in hand, coffee steaming, watching the dark like it owed him something. I used to think we were there to fish, to catch something, to bring home dinner, to talk, to solve problems, to figure out why we were the way we were. But sometimes in the long silences, I'd watch him watch the water, and I'd notice something. He wasn't waiting for a fish, he wasn't solving anything, he wasn't trying to fix us. He was just there, present, still, watching the thoughts drift through his own mind the way clouds drifted over the dam. I didn't have words for it then. I just knew that when I sat beside him in that silence, something in me quieted too. The voice that said, take the money and she's attacking me and you're not enough, it didn't disappear, but it got quieter, and in that quiet there was space. Room to breathe, room to just be. My father wasn't teaching us to fish, he was teaching us to be still, to sit in the dark with nothing but the fire and the water and our own minds. To watch our thoughts arise and dissolve without grabbing them, without feeding them, without making them bigger than they are. He was showing us the gap. That night, lying awake after the car, I finally understood what he'd been doing all those years. The watching I'd done in the dark, replaying the scene, seeing it clearly for the first time, that was the same watching he'd modeled by the fire. The same stillness, the same space. There's a part of you that thinks, that generates thoughts, feelings, reactions. A non-stop factory of stories, judgments, fears, wants. It never sleeps, it never stops. And there's a part of you that watches the thinking. I call it the observer. The observer is the part of you that can notice I'm feeling angry without becoming the anger. That can watch a thought arise, hang there and dissolve, without grabbing it, without feeding it, without making it bigger than it is. That can sit by a fire in the dark and just be present. Most people live their whole lives inside their thoughts, never realizing there's a quieter self underneath. The one watching, the one who never changes even as everything else does. The one who was there when I was 6, stealing coins, and is still here now, writing this letter. I see you doing this already, even if you don't know it. When you sit at your desk working and I see that look on your face, not the look of solving a problem, but the look of watching yourself solve it, that's the observer. When you pause before answering a question you're not sure about, and I see something flicker behind your eyes, that's the observer too. I saw it again last week when you read that draft and noticed I'd left out William. Most people would have just read and moved on, scrolled past, forgotten by dinner, but you stopped, you questioned, you paid attention to what was missing. That's the observer, not just watching what's there, noticing what isn't. You've always had it, I'm just giving it a name. Try it right now, just for a breath. Notice the thought that just arrived. This is weird, or I'm doing this wrong, or okay, I'm trying. Notice it like you'd notice a bird landing on a branch. You don't have to chase it, you don't have to shoo it away. You don't have to name it or wonder where it came from. Just watch it sit there for a moment, and then watch it leave. That watching, that's the observer. That's the part of you that's been there your whole life, waiting to be introduced. The observer saves you from reacting. But if you never act, you never love, you never hold, you never reach. The tool is not the master. You are, that is the observer's shadow. Watching is not enough, you have to reach, you have to act, you have to speak before the gap becomes a canyon. The observer changes everything. Because once you know you're watching, you realize you're not your thoughts. You're not your anger, you're not your fear. You're not the voice that says she won't notice or that was an attack or I'm not good enough. You're the one noticing them. And if you're the one noticing, you're also the one who gets to choose. Here is what I learned late. If you can observe a thought, it is not you. If it is not you, it can be interrupted. If it can be interrupted, it can be replaced. When a thought arrives that feels like the truth, pause, one breath. Ask it 3 questions. Where did you come from? The township, the truck, the passbook, or the phone? Who benefits when I believe you? What would happen if I just watched? That is the gap. That is where freedom lives, but do not stay there. The gap is not a home, it is a doorway. That gap is yours, don't lose it. And don't just watch, you have to act before the gap closes. But seeing yourself clearly is only the first step. The harder part comes next. What do you do in the space between the seeing and the choosing? That space, that tiny gap where everything could go one way or another, is where the real work begins. And it starts with learning to pause. With love, Dad. Letter 2, the space between Volume 1, The Architect. My love, caught myself once in my 20s living the same day over and over. I was driving a VNA, a very narrow aisle machine, at a warehouse. You know those machines they use in massive warehouses, the ones that can reach up to the top shelves like a giraffe's neck? That was me. Up and down, left and right, aisles that looked exactly the same no matter how many times you went down them. My job was simple, offload boxes from shelves. The shelves had levels, A, B, C, D. A was waist high. D was so high you had to tilt your head back to see the top. I'd drive the machine, raise the forks, take boxes down. And the pickers would collect them. The boxes all felt the same in my hands after a while. Same weight, same corners, same nothing, 10-12-hour shifts, day and night, weekly rotation. After a while I stopped noticing time. I woke at the same hour, bathed the same way. At the same thing I'd found a takeaway I liked, so I stopped choosing. Just ordered the same meal from the same place every night. A week would pass and it would feel like one long Tuesday. Another week, another, because nothing changed. Nothing required me to be awake. I wasn't unhappy. I just wasn't. There, that's autopilot, not misery, just absence. Going through the motions while the real you watches from somewhere far away, wondering why you've stopped driving. You know this feeling. Everyone does. It's the 20 minutes of scrolling before your eyes are fully open. The thumb moving, the brain asleep. It's the snap back at a comment before you know you're angry. The words leaving your mouth while the real you is still back there thinking, wait, did I just say that? It's agreeing with everyone because standing still feels dangerous. It's being a ghost in your own life, present but not really there. You know this feeling. Everyone does. It's the 20 minutes of scrolling before your eyes are fully open. The thumb moving, the brain asleep. It's the snap back at a comment before you know you're angry. The words leaving your mouth while the real you is still back there thinking, wait, did I just say that? It's agreeing with everyone because standing still feels dangerous. It's being a ghost in your own life, present but not really there. The machine runs whether you're driving or not. Autopilot is when you forget you have hands on the wheel. But I then noticed something. Even on those same day Tuesdays there were flickers. A song on the radio that took me back, 3 minutes of being 17 again. A sunset orange and pink, the kind you can't paint because paint doesn't move like that. A phone call from your mother that made me laugh, just a few words, a joke, a sound. For a moment I was fully there, then the machine grabbed me back. Those flickers taught me that autopilot isn't the only pilot. There's always a space between what happens and how you respond. Most of the time we fill that space with habit, with the same reaction we've always used, with the safe choice. But if you can learn to stretch that space just a little, everything changes. That day in the parking lot when you fell off your bike, I almost went to autopilot. But something made me pause, a breath, a question, what if I just wait? I didn't know where that question came from, it just arrived, like a visitor at the door. And in that pause I realized, maybe she doesn't need me to fix this. Maybe she needs to fix it herself. Maybe my job is not to remove the fall, but to be here after it. Everything good came from that pause, it always does, for fathers. For mothers, for anyone who learns to wait. Not because I knew what to do, because I didn't do what I always did. My father understood this, I think. I didn't understand it then. I thought we were there to fish, to talk, to solve problems. But now I know he was teaching us the space. The same space I'm trying to find every day, simply being, in the quiet of the water, giving us permission to find our voices in the silence. But now I'm certain he was trying to show us the space. The same space I'm trying to find every day. That's it, the pause. Forget once you will, and the next moment is another chance. The muscle grows with practice. I see you practicing this even if you don't know it. Here's what I've learned, watching the ones who make it and the ones who don't. The people who live well aren't the ones who never react. They're the ones who learn, slowly, imperfectly, falling down and getting back up, to stretch the space between the stimulus and the response. Someone says something that stings. Most people fire back immediately, same script, same heat, same regret an hour later. But the ones who have practiced, they pause, they breathe. In that tiny gap they ask, what am I feeling right now? What would the person I want to be do here? That pause is where freedom lives, not the big dramatic choices, the small ones, the ones that happen in the space between. Try it the next time life lands hard. A cut-off driver, a stinging comment from a friend, a notification that knots your stomach. Before you fire back, scroll away or react on instinct, just stop. One breath, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Is this real or is the old machine running? When you're at your desk stuck on a problem, I've watched you stop, push back, breathe, then come at it again. That's the pause. On the hockey field after a missed pass or bad call, I've seen you take a heartbeat before reacting. The world stops for you just for a second while you decide. That's the space. When you read about the circle of friends, you got quiet, questioning, wondering who belongs. That moment before you decide, that's the space too. You're learning to use it. You've always had it. I'm just namming it so you can use it on purpose. Careful though, if you stay in it too long, you never move. If you wait for the perfect moment, the moment passes. If you analyze every possibility, you never choose. The space is where freedom lives, but freedom requires movement. You cannot drive a VNA machine by sitting in the cab. Once you take your hands off the wheel, it has a touch sensor. You have to move, you have to choose, you have to risk the aisle. There is a difference between pausing to think and freezing to avoid. The first is wisdom. The second is fear dressed as patience. And I still do both sometimes, still working on it. The first time I caught myself, truly caught myself, it felt like waking up from a deep sleep. You know that feeling? When you've been dreaming and you open your eyes and for a moment you don't know where you are. The world is blurry. You're stumbling, trying to center yourself, trying to remember which way is up. That's what it felt like opening my eyes and realizing I had been gone, not asleep, just absent, driving through life with no one at the wheel. Someone asked me about a specific day last week. I couldn't remember, they all felt the same. Monday felt like Wednesday, Wednesday felt like Friday. Time had become a single grey block with no edges. I felt diminished, not by them, by myself. A strong sense of self-belittlement suddenly overcame me. Like I was offending myself, letting time drift while I wasn't even there. So I started doing small things outside my routine, different route home, different lunch, just to feel like I was driving again, just to remind myself that I could still choose. That's the space. Not just pausing, choosing to wake up. Now whenever I feel trapped, I think about that warehouse. The aisles are narrow, but the machine has a gap, and in that gap you can decide which way to steer. The margin for error is small. But you can learn to move with precision. You can learn the rhythm of the aisle. You can learn when to go fast and when to go slow. You can learn to see the gap before you need it. That's what the architect does. She does not fight the narrow aisles. She learns to navigate them so perfectly that one day she outgrows the warehouse entirely. The space is where you learn. The gap is where you grow. But the warehouse is not your home. It is just a room you pass through. Next time you find yourself on autopilot, pause. 1 breath. 3 seconds. Ask who is driving right now, the machine or me. Remember, you cannot operate the VNA machine with your hands off the wheel. Then move, even if you're scared, especially then. The space is where choice lives. Without it, you're just a machine running old programs, reacting the way you've always reacted, living the same day over and over. With it, you get to decide. You get to be the one driving, not just the one along for the ride. But here's the thing, finding the space is only the beginning. Once you're there, once you've paused, you have to decide what to let in next. Because if you're filling that space with the same old garbage, you're still not free. Which brings me to what you're feeding yourself. With love. Dad Letter 3, The Dashboard Volume 1. The Architect, my love, I want to share with you the first time my body remembered something my mind had buried. I was 6 years old. Christmas in the rural areas where my father grew up. The dark there is different, no streetlights, no neighbors close enough to hear you shout. Just the stars and the fire and your own heartbeat. That evening, supper my brother and I were supposed to eat together on one plate. That was our culture. You share everything, the food, the space, the silence, he suggested. Let's join your sisters by the fire outside. So we walked out of the hut. I don't remember the sting at first. I remember the ground, the dust, the way the air smelled like wood smoke and something cooking far away. Then sharp, on my left foot, like someone stuck a needle in me and didn't pull it out. I panicked, rushed and tried to squash whatever it was. As I did, it strung me again. Second time, like it was telling me you should have ran Baba. In the dark I couldn't see, couldn't tell what had happened. My brother shouting, my father's voice cutting through. When they figured it out, Scorpion, my father didn't wait. He just scooped me up straight to the car. I remember my brother running in front of him, opened the back door and jumped in ready to receive me. They all just moved. 30 kilometers through the dark, driving like a madman on Fury Road. But here's the thing, he had grown up there. He knew every rock, every turn, every hole in the road that could swallow a wheel. He didn't need light, he had memory. I was in the back, curled up, feeling the poison travel. From that left leg, the sensation moved to my right leg, like something crawling under my skin. Then to my arms, it felt like an electric shock current running through me. I was 6 years old. I thought I was gone. We got to the hospital. A nurse rushed to inquire what was the emergency. My father pushed a nurse out of the way, just moved her, didn't say sorry, didn't explain, just got me inside. That was my last memory. I guess I blacked out. I survived though, started grade 1 that January with a crutch, was popular by day 1, but my body remembered, it never forgot. That freeze came back years later. High school, a snake in the classroom. I don't know who saw it first. I just heard the scream, that particular scream, the one that says run now, ask later. Pandemonium. People jumping out windows like the glass wasn't even there. flooding through doors, desks knocked over, books on the floor. I ran with everyone else, didn't even see the threat yet, just ran. Then I saw it, and I froze. Not the kind of freeze where you're still thinking. The kind where your brain stops functioning. Where you're literally paralyzed, watching yourself from somewhere outside your body, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to even breathe right. I was replaying the scorpion, the crawling under my skin. My body remembered what my mind had buried, the electric shock, the dark drive, the thought that I was gone. I stood there, frozen, while everyone else ran. I stood there while the snake moved across the floor. I stood there until Melvin grabbed my arm and pulled me out. Shouting, "Stop acting like a ninja, bro," I never told anyone. I was too ashamed. The boy who froze, the boy who could not move. I carried that freeze like a failure for years. I told myself I should have moved, should have run, should have been faster, braver, stronger. I told myself the freeze proved something about me, that I was weak, that I was broken, that something was wrong. I was wrong. The freeze was not failure. It was my body buying time. You have a dashboard, my love. It is older than your thoughts, older than your words. It speaks in signals, not sentences. A tight chest, a hollow stomach, a heat in your face. A clenching in your jaw, a stillness that will not break. These are not enemies. They are lights on the dashboard. They are telling you something here matters. Pay attention. The scorpion taught me that. The snake taught me that. The body remembers. It always remembers. But the body also speaks in quiet warnings, not emergencies, just echoes. I remember a night when I felt a hollow ache in my chest, not pain, just absence. I was sitting on the couch. Your mother was in the kitchen. You were not yet born, yet still months to go, but we had already started planning. We had been saving for months, putting away money for after the baby came. I didn't know then that all of it was gone. She had seen an investment opportunity, too good to be true. She had taken every cent and put it into something that promised to pay out right around your due date. She thought she was being clever. She thought she was securing our future. But that hollow ache in my chest, that was the dashboard. I felt it when she was quieter than usual, when she avoided talking about the savings, when she smiled too quickly. I ignored it. I told myself I was tired. I told myself she was stressed about the pregnancy. I told myself the right moment would come to ask. The right moment never came. By the time I found out the money was gone, it was too late. The investment was a scam. The payout never came. And the hollow ache, that warning I had swallowed, became a canyon between us. That is the dashboard's shadow. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And if you don't learn to listen to the whispers, you will only hear the alarms when the thing has already crashed. I think about the dam sometimes, not the night fishing. The mornings. My father would wake before the sun. The mist would be thick on the water. He would stand at the edge, rod in hand, waiting, not casting, just standing, watching, letting the cold settle into his bones. He never talked about it, but I watched him. He was reading something I could not name. The water, the light, the way the air moved, the signals. He was teaching me without saying a word that the body knows before the mind catches up. That the signals are always there. That the question is whether you learn to read them, and whether you learn when to trust them and when to move anyway. The scorpion was a scream. The snake was a scream. But the hollow ache, that was a whisper, and I failed to hear it. If you listen to it too much, you never move. If you trust every signal, you become paralyzed. If you believe every tight chest is a warning, you will never leave the house. First year after taking her license, your mother couldn't drive on highways. Her body seized up at the on-ramp. Her dashboard screamed danger at the same speed everyone else drives. She was not wrong, her body was doing what bodies do. But the signal is not a command, it is information. The observer takes the information. Then the captain decides, but ignoring the dashboard is just as dangerous as obeying it blindly. The hollow ache I swallowed, that was not wisdom, that was fear of the conversation. That was me choosing silence over the risk of hearing something I didn't want to know. I see you reading your own dashboard. When you come home quiet and go straight to your room, I know not to push. You are telling me without words that you need space. I respect that. When you say I'm fine and then pause and I see you reconsider, that's the dashboard flickering to life. That's you catching yourself in the act. When you come to me with a worry already half solved because you've sat with it, that's you looking under the hood. You've done the work. You just need someone to confirm what you already know. You have it, my love. You have always had it. When a feeling rises, don't start with what am I feeling. Start with where am I feeling it. Close your eyes. Let your attention move through your body, your chest, your stomach, your jaw, your shoulders. Notice what is there, not the story, just the sensation. Tight, hollow, hot, cold, still. Name it. One word, not the story, just the signal. Then ask, what is my body trying to tell me? Is this fear protecting me or is it trapping me? Is this a whisper I have been ignoring? If it is protecting you, thank it. Let it do its work. If it is trapping you, move. One step, one breath, one foot in front of the other. But if it is a whisper, a quiet warning you have been swallowing, do not ignore it. The whispers become screams. The hollow ache becomes a canyon. What does your body remember that you haven't listened to yet? The scorpion, the snake, the hollow ache, they are still speaking. Are you hearing them? With love, Dad, Letter 4, the stories you tell yourself, Volume 1. The architect, my love, once you learn to pause, you have to decide what to let in. That's where your Uncle Melvin comes in. It was a Friday afternoon. We knock off early on Fridays, so by 2 p.m. I'm at the local shops with the guys, passing time. You know those afternoons when you're not really doing anything, just existing, letting the hours dissolve? That was us, lost in conversation, talking about nothing. The kind of talk that fills space without filling anything else. Then a grey SUV pulls up, nice one, sleek. The kind that makes you stop and look, parks right in front of us. Everyone's trying to see who it is. We know everyone's car around here. We know who drives what, who's doing well, who's still saving. This one we don't know, so everybody's looking. Craning necks, whispering guesses. Then the door opens. It's Melvin. People are admiring, chattering. The black rims, customized, caught everyone's eye. Not just black, but that black. The kind that looks wet even when it's dry. The kind that says I made it without saying anything at all. Everybody was going crazy. And in that moment it hit me, right in the chest, like something I'd been running from finally caught up. My lifelong friend just bought his third vehicle. Third, I didn't have one. I'd had cars before, lost them. But right now, nothing. Zero. Standing there in my regular clothes with my regular life, watching people admire my friend's success. That's when I knew he's doing something different, something better, and I was hungry, not for food, for answers, for whatever he had that I didn't. I've known your Uncle Melvin since we were almost 6 years old. His family moved in next door to us and we played together constantly. Same dust, same sun, same games. When it was time for school, our parents decided to put us in different schools. I don't know why. Maybe they thought we'd distract each other. Maybe they just wanted us to have our own paths, so we went through grades 1 to 4 apart. Then his mother got relocated for work and they moved away. Years later, first day of boarding school, I walk into the dormitory, that big room with all the beds, all the unfamiliar faces, and there he is. Sitting on a bottom bunk like he'd been waiting for me. We hadn't seen each other in years, didn't know we were going to the same school, didn't plan it, didn't even hope for it, it just happened. Like the universe said, you're not done with this one yet. We stayed up all night catching up, whispering, laughing, trying to be quiet but failing. The dorm monitor switched the lights off, told us to sleep, but we couldn't stop talking. Bunk beds, me on top, him below. We whispered until the monitor woke up and punished us the next morning. Made us clean the whole yard in the sun, with everyone watching. It was crazy, it was beautiful. For years I thought Melvin and I were equals. Same background, same chances, same potential. We grew up together, stayed friends through everything. When he moved to Joburg for university, engineering, metallurgy, I was already here, so I was his go-to person. Bonded while he studied at University of Pretoria. After he graduated, he got a job in Mpumalanga, but distance didn't stop us. He'd drive to Joburg, I'd visit him in Middelburg. I helped him buy his first car. We even tried starting a business together in 2019. It was actually working until COVID hit and everything fell apart. But somehow through all those years, Melvin kept pulling ahead. Better ideas, better answers, better life, not dramatically. Not overnight, just steadily, like a river carving a canyon. You don't see it happening, but one day you look and the canyon is there. It took me a long time to understand why. When I came home from work, I watched movies, hours of them. Nights disappeared into screens and I called it relaxing. I'd sit there remote in hand, letting stories happen to me. Not thinking, not learning, just consuming. Melvin came home and read, constantly. Self-help, psychology, whatever he could find. Books stacked on his nightstand. Pages turned, margins marked. He was feeding himself while I was letting myself be fed. Then there's your Uncle Rasta. You know him. He stays up late watching YouTube, but not funny videos, not scrolling. Not the endless drift that most of us fall into. I'd be fast asleep on my bed, dead to the world. Then something would wake me, a noise maybe. A laugh, a voice. My ears would come to, and it was the giggles. The excitement in their voices when they'd figured something out. The conversation going back and forth like they were professionals in some industry they'd just learned about that night. He was teaching himself. Welding, electrical work, car mechanics, phone repairs. Now he can fix almost anything and he loves it. Not just the skill, but the knowing, the being able, the feeling of looking at something broken and understanding exactly how to fix it. Because he spent those nights feeding skills instead of consuming entertainment. Where did Rasta learn to do that? From your Uncle Sledge, the one who started it. Sleeping late, learning on YouTube, building skills. Rasta adopted it from him. And now they both can do things most people can't. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty about your phone. I'm telling you because I want you to see what took me years to learn. Your mind grows on what you feed it. And no one else is going to choose your menu. You know the saying, you are what you eat. It's true for food. Junk in, junk out. Your body taught you that years ago. Eat garbage, feel like garbage. It's simple. But no one tells you your mind has a mouth too, and it never stops eating. From the moment you wake up, there's a line of people trying to feed it. TikTok wants to show you what everyone's wearing. Instagram wants to show you where everyone's going. The news wants to show you everything burning. The comments want to show you who's wrong, and they all want to be first. They all want your attention. They all want to be the voice in your head, and it all goes in, before you've had water, before you've seen the sky, before you've even remembered your own name. I think about this every morning when I see you come downstairs. Sometimes you're already scrolling, the blue light on your face before you've said good morning. You're not looking for anything, just letting the world pour in. And I have to stop myself from saying something, because it's not my job to police your menu, it's my job to help you learn to choose. But I also think about the morning you read that draft and told me it gave you confidence. You weren't just scrolling, you were reading. You were feeding yourself something that mattered. I saw that, I felt that. That moment right there was worth 1,000 lectures. I've watched people become addicted to outrage. They scroll for things that make their blood hot because feeling something, even anger, is better than feeling nothing. They click on the headlines that piss them off. They share the posts that make them furious. They're poisoning their own well and wondering why they're always thirsty. I've watched people become addicted to comparison. They scroll through lives that aren't real, edited highlights of strangers, and then wonder why their own life feels grey. They see the vacation photos but not the credit card debt. They see the happy couples but not the fights. They're eating plastic fruit and complaining about malnutrition. And I've watched people like Melvin and Rasta and Sledge, people who understood early that the mind is a garden. You can let weeds grow, or you can plant what you actually want to harvest. It's that simple. And that hard, Melvin didn't become smarter by accident. He became smarter by reading, by choosing books over movies, by feeding himself ideas instead of entertainment. All those years, while I was watching whatever was on, he was building a mind that could think better, answer harder questions, see further. Rasta didn't become a mechanic, a welder, an electrician, a phone repairman by magic. He became those things by watching YouTube at 2 a.m. while everyone else slept. Sledge showed him the way and Rasta ran with it. They weren't born different. They just made different choices about what to put in. Now, I'm not saying all screen time is poison. I'm not saying you should never watch a movie or laugh at a funny video. Because here's the other thing I learned, watching my own family. My father, your grandfather, had this thing he did. Whenever he came home, he'd bring a collection of DVDs. He had a big pouch and he'd fill it with movies throughout the year. By December, it was a stack, a tower, and we'd watch them together. Me and my brothers, hours of movies, but it wasn't mindless consumption. It was connection. It was the silence between us that was actually conversation. We'd sit there immersed and you could feel the bond in the quiet. You could hear it in the laughter. You could sense it in the way we'd look at each other during the good parts. That culture stuck. During COVID, when the world shut down, me and my brothers watched movies again. Hours and hours, but it wasn't escape. It was being together. Even in silence, we were talking. Even apart, we were connected. So the point isn't movies bad, books good. The point is, why are you watching? What are you feeding and what's being fed? I want you to think about what you're feeding yourself this week. Not to judge, just to notice. Just to become aware of what's going in. When you pick up your phone, ask, why am I doing this? What am I hopping to find? When you watch something, ask, is this feeding me or just passing time? When you finish a session, ask, do I feel fuller or emptier? Those 3 questions won't change everything overnight, but they'll wake you up. They'll remind you that you have a choice, that you're not just a passive consumer, that you get to decide what goes in, and choice is where freedom lives. You come downstairs some mornings already scrolling. I see it. And I don't say anything because it's not my job to police your menu. It's my job to help you learn to choose it yourself. But I'll tell you this, the people I know who live well, really well, are the ones who guard their minds like a garden. They're picky about what goes in. Mean about it, even. They don't let just anything take root. They know that what you feed your mind becomes your thoughts become your beliefs become your choices become your life. It all starts with what you put in your mouth, the one attached to your brain. Melvin still reads. Rasta still learns at 2 a.m. Sledge still builds with his hands. And me, I still watch movies sometimes, but now I choose them. I know why I'm watching, and when it's over I don't feel empty. That's the difference, not perfection, just awareness. Just the simple act of paying attention to what's going in. And that's all I'm asking from you, to know what you're feeding yourself, to choose it on purpose. To stop letting the world pour while you sleepwalk through the meal. Because here's the truth, you are what you eat. And your mind is always, always hungry. But even with good food, you need to know how to read your own signals. You need to know when you're full, when you're hungry for something else, when something you ate is making you sick. There's a voice in your head that never stops talking. I call it the narrator. The narrator explains everything. It tells you why you failed, why they didn't text back, why you don't belong. It builds cases, collects evidence, secures convictions. It turns neutral events into personal attacks. It turns coincidence into conspiracy. Most of the time, you don't even notice it's talking. You just feel the result, the heavy chest, the hot face, the sudden urge to disappear. That voice isn't the truth, it's just a story. And the problem is we often believe the story more than the reality. For years, I told myself a different story, one that protected me from shame. After your mother and I separated, I told myself I am the victim. She left because she couldn't forgive one mistake. I tried to apologize, I tried to fix it. She wouldn't listen. That story felt good. It felt true, it let me sleep at night. It let me blame her instead of looking at myself. But one day, your Uncle Melvin pulled me aside. He's always been so insisting that I should fix things with her. He didn't shout, he didn't accuse, he just asked a question. What if the story is wrong? What if you're not the victim, just the one who waited too long to apologize? That question broke me open because I knew the truth. I hadn't tried to apologize immediately. I had frozen, I had waited weeks, then months. I had let the gap become a canyon. And by the time I finally spoke, she had already built a wall to protect herself from the silence. The story I had been telling myself, the victim story, it wasn't a lie. But it wasn't the whole truth either. It was a story I chose because it was easier than facing what I had done. That's what the narrator does. It doesn't always lie. It just selects the evidence that fits. When you tell yourself I am not enough, your brain will ignore every win, every A, every compliment. It will highlight every mistake, every stutter, every no. It will build a case, present evidence, secure conviction. It wants to prove the story is true, but you are not the story. You are the one telling it, and you can choose a different one. That's what stories do. They can build or break. The difference isn't always the story itself. It's the love underneath. It's the relationship that gives the story its weight. The stories we tell ourselves are not just personal, they are inherited. My father carried stories about silence, that it was strength, that speaking was weakness. He passed that silence to me. I passed it to my brothers. We passed it to each other in the space between words, in the quiet that we called respect but was really fear. You will carry stories too, some that build, some that break, some that were given to you before you had a chance to ask. The work is not to stop telling stories. The work is to notice which ones you are telling. To ask, where did this come from? Who benefits when I believe it? Is this helping me move? When you catch yourself telling a story, pause, say it out loud or write it down. I believe she's mad at me. I believe I'm not good enough. I believe I'll never figure this out. Then ask, what do I actually know to be true? What am I assuming? What else could be true? Then choose the story that helps you move, not the one that keeps you stuck, not the one that makes you feel bad, the one that helps you take the next step. You already do this. I've watched you. When you read that draft and noticed I had left out William, you didn't tell yourself a story about why. You asked. You said you left out William. That was not the narrator. That was you paying attention, noticing what was missing, having the courage to name it. When the blue-eyed boy gave you the ick, you laughed. What was little Maya thinking? That was you too, watching the story without becoming it. You have it, my love, you have always had it. The destroyer and the gift, same hands. Which story will you write today? Choose, then write it down in ink. Strange enough, nothing clarifies your thoughts better than seeing them on paper in your own handwriting. With love, Dad. Letter 5, Your Race, Your Lane, Volume 1. The Architect, my love. For me, watching you grow feels like a real-life movie. That's why you say I'm never serious, and I say you worry too much. You are literally a never-ending sitcom I wish I could binge-watch. I stood on the edge of the track at your school in Constantia, watching you line up for your first 800-meter race. There had been a little drizzle in the morning. The track was still damp, that dark grey that smells like possibility. I remember you worrying they might cancel it, standing there at the gate, looking up at the sky, willing it to clear. Then the sky cleared, and your face lit up like someone turned on a light inside you. You were 10, ponytail bouncing, legs still a little too long for your body, the way kids' legs are before they grow into them. The starting gun cracked, that sharp sound that makes everyone flinch for just a second. You bolted forward, arms pumping exactly as the coach had taught you. Elbows at 90 degrees, eyes ahead, focused. Then on the second bend you glanced sideways just for a heartbeat at the girl in the bright orange vest pulling ahead in the next lane. That glance, your stride shortened, your shoulders tightened. You lost half a second you never got back. You still finished strong. You still smiled when I hugged you. But later in the car you whispered, that girl was flying, hey, there's no way I was going to catch her. I felt it in my chest, that familiar ache. I had been there, I had done that. I had spent years looking sideways instead of forward. That glance costs the same thing whether you are 10 or 40, it steals your focus. It makes you forget your own lane. In the townships there's a subculture called Izikothing. Young people gather in crowds, dressed in expensive designer clothes, Nike, Carvela, Rossomoda, and they compete, not by running faster, by destroying. They pour out expensive brandy, tear their own clothes, set money on fire. The one who can destroy the most, who can show they have so much that losing it means nothing, is the winner. It looks like madness, but it's not madness, it's a mirror. When the world tells you that your worth is what you can buy, what you can show, what you can destroy without flinching, you learn to measure yourself against the person next to you. You learn that your lane is not your own. It is the lane of comparison, of one-upmanship, of proving you are not the one who will be left behind. The girl in the bright orange vest was not your enemy, she was running her race. But the voice inside you turned her into a yardstick. It said, she is ahead, you are behind, you are losing, you are not enough. That voice is the passbook of the soul. It asks for permission to exist, to belong, to be seen. It tells you that your lane is defined by how you measure against the lanes beside you, but your lane is not the lane they drew. Your lane is the one you build. We measure ourselves against others without thinking. It's how we're wired. It means we determine our own worth by comparing ourselves to others. Sometimes that helps us grow, but more often it traps us. We look at someone who has more and we feel less. We look at someone who is ahead and we feel behind. I learned this the hard way watching William at the warehouse. This was before we became friends. I envied him so much. William drove a newer car than me. Nicer, cleaner. Every time he pulled into the parking lot, I felt smaller. I started working longer hours, taking extra shifts, trying to catch up. I told myself, if I just work harder, I can have what he has. One day I asked him how he bought it. He said, "My father gave it to me." His lane was not my lane, his ground was not my ground. I had been racing someone who wasn't even in the same race. That is the trap of comparison. You run a race that doesn't exist, against opponents who don't know you're there, and you lose every time. The boardroom in Margate years ago. Marble floors, glass tables, suits that cost more than my monthly salary. I was the youngest person in the room by a decade. Everyone else had credentials I couldn't pronounce, let alone claim. The voice started up. "You don't belong here. They're going to figure it out any second. Get out before they notice." I felt my shoulders rising toward my ears. My voice went tight. My palms started sweating. I was halfway out the door, emotionally at least, already gone, already defeated. Then I remembered something your mother once told me, just a sentence. Simple, but it came back to me in that moment. They invited you, they see something you don't. So I stayed. The room didn't change, I was the same guy, but my shoulders dropped, my voice steadied. They didn't figure anything out. Because there was nothing to figure out, I belonged there. I just needed to remember why they had asked me in the first place. The world I was afraid of was not real. It was a story I told myself. Remember the choir competition? The one where you wore the boys' shoes. We had been to Clearwater Mall, shop after shop, looking for girls' shoes in your size. Nothing. Your face fell, piece by piece. Then I suggested the boys' section. The shoes looked nice and the size was there. You looked at them like they were a foreign language. You were unsure, uncertain how your friends would react. Your mother was uncertain too. I could see the war inside you. Do I blend in or do I wear what fits? But you made the decision. You wore them. When we dropped you at school early, waiting for friends to arrive, I saw the nervousness. You kept looking at the door, fidgeting. Then your friends started showing up. Some of them were wearing the same style, the boys' version. I saw the excitement rise in you like the sun coming up. You ran to them. "I have to go. You guys won the cup." That evening the vibe was different. Lovely. You glowed. That's courage, my love, not the loud kind. The quiet kind that wears what fits and runs toward friends. There was a time in my 20s when I tried to run everyone else's lane. I watched the people around me, their cars, their clothes, their weekends, and I thought, if I just keep up, I will be enough. I spent money I didn't have. I said yes to things I couldn't afford. I measured myself against people who were not measuring themselves against me. I was running their race in their lane with their rules, and I was losing. It took years to realize that I was not losing. I was just in the wrong lane. Your Uncle Melvin taught me something about this. When we started that business in 2019, I didn't have what he had. I wasn't the genius with ideas. I wasn't the salesman who could close anyone. By any objective measure, I was the least valuable person in the room, but I had something else. People gravitated toward me. I don't know why, I've never fully understood it. But in a room full of brilliant people, I was the one they gathered around. I was the one who could take Melvin's ideas and make everyone see the same vision. I was the one who held the space where something could grow. Melvin saw it before I did. He pulled me aside one day and said, "You think you're just here to fill gaps, but you're not. You're the reason any of this holds together. That's your lane. Don't trade it for anything." I didn't understand then, I do now. The lanes we are given are not just personal. They are political. The Group Areas Act, the Passbook, the Bantustan system, the lines drawn on maps before we were born. They were designed to keep us in lanes we didn't choose. But your lane is not the lane they drew. Your lane is the one you build. It is shaped by your grandmother's kitchen, your grandfather's silence, your uncle's sacrifices, your own small choices that no one sees. The world will try to convince you that your only value is what you can trade for money, what you can produce, what you can sell, what you can show. That is a lie. The world tells that lie because it benefits from you not knowing what you carry. Your lane is not lesser, it is uniquely yours. It was designed with your exact gifts, your exact lessons, your exact timing. Trying to jump lanes only exhausts you and slows you down. In that moment I saw the same quiet thief I have watched steal years from grown men in boardrooms and warehouses alike. Comparison. It doesn't roar, it whispers. It doesn't steal your talent, it steals your focus. And once it has your eyes, it owns your race. I didn't say it then, but watching you glance sideways at that girl, I knew that feeling. I'd lived it 100 times. The warehouse, the boardroom. Standing next to your Uncle Melvin, while people admired his black rims, and I stood there in my regular clothes with my regular life. That glance costs the same thing whether you're 10 or 40. It steals your focus. It makes you forget your own lane. In the markets I traded and the factories I helped run, the fastest way to lose was to watch the other guy. I saw it happen again and again. While you're busy checking his numbers, his speed, his shine, your own machine starts to drift. One distracted glance and the entire production line falls out of rhythm. Millions in lost output. All because someone looked left instead of straight ahead. All because someone couldn't stop measuring themselves against the person next to them. Your phone has turned the whole world into one endless adjacent lane. Every scroll shows you someone's highlight reel, the perfect grades, the flawless skin, the vacations, the applause, the awards, the parties, the friends, while hiding the tears, the late nights, the doubt, the failures they quietly edit out before posting. Those side glances feel small. They aren't, they are tiny poisons. They change your stride. The antidote is simple: eyes forward, heart forward. Focus on the next step that belongs only to you. The grass always looks greener because you're seeing it from a distance. Up close, every lane has its own rocks, its own wind, its own hidden puddles. Every runner has their own struggles, their own doubts, their own reasons for running. Next time you feel that familiar tug of comparison, the quick scroll, the quiet asterisk, why not me asterisk, the sudden tightness in your chest, stop, take one deep breath, feel the air fill you, then ask yourself, what is the next step on my track right now? Not theirs, mine. What did I do today that yesterday's me couldn't have done? How can I run this moment with more love for my own lane? You don't have to answer out loud, just let the questions sit. The glance costs you, the race is yours. Run it, not because you are faster than anyone else, because you are the only one who can run it. And when the whispers come, asterisk, she's faster, she's prettier, she's further ahead, she's better, asterisk, smile quietly and answer in your heart, that's her race. This one is mine. I spent months trying to look like I was on someone else's track. Now I just run my own. But here's the harder truth. The only person you need to outrun is yesterday's version of yourself, and even that race is optional. The girl in the orange vest is not your problem. The glance is, drop it now, with love, Dad. Letter 6, The Glasses That Color Your World, Volume 1. The Architect, my love, think about when we walk by Florida Lake. We are side by side, taking the same steps, breathing the same air, feeling the same sun. But we are not seeing the same lake. We never are. I look at the water and see peace, a place to breathe, a reflection of sky that makes the world feel bigger than my problems. The ripples, the light, the way the water holds the clouds, you might see the ducks, or the way the light hits the ripples differently. Or maybe on a hard day, you see a place that feels a little lonely, quiet in a way that presses rather than soothes. A mirror for whatever you're carrying, same lake, same moment, two different worlds. We don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. Early in my career, a manager publicly embarrassed me in a meeting, mocked an idea I'd worked hard on, made sure everyone laughed, not a chuckle, a full room laugh, the kind where you feel your face go hot and your throat close up. I told myself a story that day, don't share ideas, it's not safe, keep your head down, do your work, stay invisible. For years after, in every meeting, that scratch colored what I saw. When a colleague offered feedback, I heard criticism. When a boss asked a question, I felt attacked. I was defending against a ghost, fighting a war that ended years ago. It took me a long time to realize that manager was long gone, probably retired, probably not even thinking about that meeting. But I was still wearing his scratches, still flinching at shadows. There was another time, Jacques pulled another one on me. He made a comment about how I looked one morning, said we need to always look smart, be tidy. Just a general reminder to the room, nothing personal, nothing targeted, but I was tired that day. We'd come back late, slept late, I'd rushed. I wasn't my usual self, my shirt was wrinkled, my hair wasn't right, I knew it, felt it all morning. So when he said it, it hit me like he was talking directly at me, personally, intentionally. The shame hit, sudden, hot. Suddenly I'm thinking, what is everybody thinking about me now? Do they all think I'm sloppy? Do they all judge me? A million questions in my head, a million accusations. I couldn't focus. When the meeting moved to input, I couldn't even raise my hand. I was in my own prison in my head, completely separate from what the guy had actually meant to say. That's what scratches do. They make everything personal, even when it's not. They turn neutral comments into attacks. They turn general reminders into targeted criticisms. Don't let old wounds write today's script, my love. Clean your glasses daily. I think that they call it projection. You take the fear inside you, the shame, the insecurity, the story you believe about yourself, and you paint it onto someone else. You stop seeing them, you only see your own reflection. I did this with a young worker at the warehouse once. New, moved slow, kept to himself. The guys on the floor whispered, lazy, not cut out for this, won't last a month. I believed them at first. I'd watch him from the corner of my eye, measuring his pace against mine, feeling superior. I can load faster, I can work longer, I'm better at this. Then one day I saw him wince when he lifted a box. A flick of pain across his face. I asked if he was okay. He hesitated, then showed me his hands, wrapped in bandages. An old injury, he said, a crushed hand from a previous job. He wasn't slow because he was lazy. He was slow because he was hurting, and he was showing up anyway, working twice as hard as anyone else just to do half as much. The story I'd painted, lazy, not cut out, was never about him. It was about me, my own need to feel superior, my own fear of being seen as slow, my own scratches projected onto him. That's what the glasses do. They don't just show you the world, they show you your own reflection, and you mistake it for the truth. When I first started writing these letters, I projected my own fear of failure onto you. I told myself you wouldn't read them, that they would gather dust, that I was wasting my time, that fear was mine, not yours, but I wore it like glasses and called it foresight. It took me months to realize I wasn't seeing you, I was seeing my own shame. The scratches on your glasses are not the world, they are yours, own them, then wipe them. Some of our glasses have scratches from the past that we didn't even put there. Inherited scratches, handed down like family silver. Your grandmother Sue, she carried scratches from her own life. The cancer, the chemo, the fight, the nights of wondering if she would see morning, the mornings of wondering if she would have strength to stand, but somehow her smile stayed clear. People remember that, not the pain, the warmth. She wore her scratches differently. Your grandfather, he carried scratches too. Growing up rural, working to provide, driving 800 kilometers to take his boys fishing. He could have worn the scratch of absence, the time away, the work that kept him gone, the nights he wasn't there. Instead, he filled the time he had so fully that the absence became background. The presence became everything. You have your own scratches, my love. Some from me, some from the world, some from the stories you've inherited. The question isn't whether they're there. It's whether you forget you're wearing them. There is a specific pair of glasses that is very popular right now. Everyone wears them, especially on their phones, the comparison glasses. When you put these on, you look at your own life, your messy room, your average grades, your normal family, and you overlay it with someone else's highlight reel. Their edited photos, their perfect vacations, their happy group chats, their filtered faces, their curated lives. And suddenly your life looks grey, dull, not enough. But you aren't seeing their reality, you're seeing their trailer, the best 3 minutes of a 2-hour movie. You are comparing your behind-the-scenes footage with their final cut, your bloopers with their greatest hits. That isn't fair, that isn't even close to fair. When you feel that pang, take the glasses off. Remind yourself, I don't know the whole story, I never know the whole story. Your brain wants to be right more than it wants to be happy. It's true, your brain would rather be correct than content. Rather be accurate than at peace. If you believe you are the awkward one, your brain will highlight every tiny trip, every missed high five, every silence. It will ignore every time you made the whole table laugh or spoke with confidence. It will build a case, present evidence, secure a conviction. It wants to prove the glasses are correct. The lens becomes your identity. You stop seeing the glasses and just think that's what the world looks like. The only way out is to catch yourself in the act. When you feel that familiar story rising, see, I knew they didn't like me, pause. Ask, what would I see if I wore different glasses right now? What evidence am I ignoring? What am I missing? That pause is the lens cloth. Use it daily. Sometimes your glasses get foggy with suspicion. You start to think everyone is against you. A friend doesn't wave, they hate me. A teacher sighs, I'm in trouble, I'm quiet, what did I do wrong, what's wrong with me? This is a miserable way to live, exhausting, lonely, heavy. I want you to carry a mental cleaning cloth called the benefit of the doubt. When something happens that feels negative, wipe the lens. Ask, is there a simpler explanation? Maybe your friend didn't wave because they didn't have their contacts in. Maybe the teacher sighed because their feet hurt. Maybe I'm quiet because I'm tired, not because I'm mad. Assume people are good until they prove otherwise. Assume the best until you have evidence for the worst. It makes the world a much lighter place. Never make permanent decisions based on a temporary tint. I see you practicing this, even when you don't know it. When you come home from school and tell me about something that bothered you, and then later you come back again and say, actually, maybe it wasn't that bad, that's you wiping the lens, that's you taking a second look. When you're unsure about a friend and you pause before deciding they're upset with you, that's the benefit of the doubt at work. That's you choosing to wait before judging. When you read that draft and noticed I left out William, you didn't assume the worst. You asked. You gave me the chance to explain. You saw what was missing and you named it, not to accuse but to help. That's the glasses at their clearest. Seeing what is there, seeing what is not there, choosing clarity over assumption. The lake is still the lake. The question is, what do you see when you look? The glasses you wear shape everything. But here's the good news, you get to choose which pair you put on. You can wear the scratch ones from old wounds. You can wear the comparison ones that make everything look grey. You can wear the suspicious ones that make everyone look like a threat. Or you can clean them daily and see the world as it actually is. Complicated, yes, messy, yes, but also full of people just like you, trying their best, carrying their own scratches, fighting their own ghosts. That pause, that moment you choose to question the story, that's the lens cloth. Use it every time the view gets blurry, and if you never clean your glasses, you'll never see who's actually in the room with you. Some of them are waiting to be seen. With love, Dad, Letter 7, OWNING, Your Mess, Volume 1, The Architect, My Love. I remember a morning not long ago. We were all getting ready, me and your mother, for work, you for school. The usual chaos, toast in the toaster, bags by the door, shoes everywhere. You finished dressing and came into the kitchen. And there in the sink was her favorite mug. Broken. Cracks running through it like little rivers. You didn't say anything. You just looked at it, looked away, and went to your room. Quietly, without a word. Your mother was upset for days. Not about the mug, about the silence. The whole house felt different, heavier, like we were all walking around something we weren't supposed to mention. That uncomfortable vibe was like a bill that hadn't been paid. I know that silence. I built one once, and it cost me something I never got back. Early in my relationship with your mother, we had a fight. I don't even remember what it was about, something small, something stupid, but I remember what I did after. I went silent, not the kind of silence that says I need a moment to think. The kind that says I'm punishing you with my absence. I withheld my warmth. I answered in monosyllables. I made her work for every word for 3 days. 3 days of heavy silence in the same house. She had to cook, I had to do the dishes. You can't do dishes without coordination. You can't live in the same space without some kind of communication. But we did. We walked around each other like ghosts. I genuinely believed I was right. I had reasons. She had said something unfair. She had started it. I was just protecting myself. But one evening I caught a glimpse of her face when she didn't know I was looking. She was sitting on the couch reading something, and for a moment her guard was down. I saw something that stopped me cold. Not anger, not frustration, just tired. The kind of tired that comes from living with a wall you didn't build. I walked into the kitchen and said, "I've been a child for 3 days, I'm sorry, I'll do better." The moment the words left my mouth, the wall came down. That was it. No long speech, no explanation, just ownership, and something shifted. Not because I won the argument, I didn't even finish it. Because I stopped making the argument and started making the repair. I learned the cost of a too late apology much later, with your mother, the one that still sits between us. It cost me everything. When the observer runs the show, you watch, you analyze, you wait for the perfect moment. You tell yourself, I will act when I am sure, I will speak when the time is right, but the perfect moment never comes, the time is never right, and the gap becomes a canyon. I broke your mother's trust once, not with violence, not with cruelty, but I broke it. I knew I was wrong, I knew I should apologize. I could feel the words lining up behind my teeth, but instead of speaking, I froze. I watched myself from somewhere outside my body, asking a million questions. What if she doesn't forgive me? What if I say the wrong thing? What if this makes it worse? I blamed my bad experiences. I found reasons to validate my silence. I told myself, she will calm down, she will come to me, the right moment will come. Days became weeks, weeks became months. And by the time I finally said, I'm sorry, the wall between us had been built. She had stopped waiting. Freeze, that hyperflexion, psychologists call it, was not wisdom. It was paralysis. The observer had become a wall, not between her and me, between me and her. And now, my love, when you ask why your mother and I are not together, I freeze again. The question lands on my chest like a weight. I say, ask your mother. She says, ask your father. The silence we built started with a gap I failed to close. That apology was real, but it was too late. The gap had become a canyon. The silence I had created, not the broken trust itself, but the silence after, was what truly cost me. I tell you this not to make you feel sorry for me. I tell you because I want you to understand. Sometimes the mistake isn't what you did, it's what you're still doing. There is a difference between guilt and shame. One helps you grow, one keeps you stuck. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. Guilt is a signal. It's an alarm system that tells you your action didn't match your values. It points at the behavior and says, that was off. Guilt is useful, it keeps you aligned, it helps you grow. Shame is different. Shame points at your identity. It says, this mistake proves you are broken. Shame doesn't want you to learn, it wants you to shrink, it wants you to hide. When you own your mess, you are processing guilt. You are looking at the action and saying, I can fix that. When you carry shame, you stay stuck. You replay the moment over and over, not to learn, but to punish yourself. Drop the shame, keep the guilt long enough to learn from it, then let that go too. The broken mug was not the problem. The silence was. When you make a mistake, you create a gap between you and the other person. They are owed something, an acknowledgement, a repair, a change in how you act. If you fix it immediately, with a real apology and changed actions, the gap is closed. The relationship returns to balance, but if you ignore it or try to pretend it didn't happen, the cost starts building up. The small problem grows. What could have been settled with a simple I was wrong today becomes a heavy grudge tomorrow. The interest on a mistake is always higher than the original cost. A real apology has 4 movements. First, you name what you did, specifically without deflection. Not I'm sorry if you were offended. That's not namming, that's hiding. Try I broke your mug and didn't say anything. That was wrong. Second, you acknowledge the impact. You show that you see the wound, not just the act. I noticed the house felt heavy for days. I know my silence hurt you. Third comes genuine remorse, not I'm sorry you feel that way. Real remorse says, I wish I hadn't done this, I wish I could take it back. Finally, you offer change, not a promise to be perfect, that's impossible. A commitment to try differently next time. Next time I make a mistake, I'll tell you right away. No more silence. That's how you close the gap. That's how you pay the debt before the interest compounds. Just the other day I read about a concept in restorative justice that changed how I think about repair. It's not about punishment, it's about restoring the relationship. It asks, who was harmed? What do they need? How can I make it right? Not what will happen to me, not how can I avoid consequences, but what does the person I hurt need to heal? I failed that with your mother. I thought about my own fear, my own shame, my own need to be forgiven. I didn't ask what she needed. I didn't sit with her silence and ask what would close this gap for you. By the time I thought to ask, she had already closed the door. Later that day, after the broken mug, you came to me. Quiet, a few words. I think I broke it. I was scared you would be angry. I said I wasn't angry. You said that's why you were telling me. We both knew what Mum was going to do, so we resolved it peacefully the right way. That moment was small, a few seconds in a kitchen, but it was everything. You broke the silence faster than I did. You didn't wait 3 days. You came back, you said it, and the house felt lighter. When you spoke, you were not just cleaning your own mess, you were breaking a chain. The silence we carry is not just personal, it is inherited. It is the silence of black men who were taught to swallow their words, who learned that speaking meant danger, who passed that lesson down like an heirloom. Keep it inside, carry it alone, never let them see you break. I am trying to break that silence, not with grand speeches, with small words, with I was wrong, with I am sorry, with I should have said something sooner. You taught me that, not with a lecture. With a broken mug and a few words in the kitchen, you taught me that the mess is not the broken thing. The mess is the silence, the wall, the weight we carry because we didn't speak. When you said I broke it, you showed me what courage looks like. Not the courage to be perfect, the courage to be wrong, the courage to let someone see your mess before it becomes a wall. That's the practice, not never breaking things, breaking the silence after. This week, if you stumble, try this. Before you explain, before you defend, before you blame, say 3 words to yourself. My fault. Next. My fault is the ownership. It's looking at the mess and accepting that you helped create it. No excuses, no deflection, just truth. Next is the movement. It's the decision to learn and keep going rather than getting stuck in the mud of shame. The mistake is not the end, it's just data. Then if you can, say it to the person you hurt, not a long speech. Just, I was wrong, I'm sorry, I'll do better. Then after you've made it right with them, make it right with yourself. Look in the mirror and say, I did that. It wasn't who I want to be, but I am not that moment. I am the person who learned from it. A correction from home. When you write about people you love, you learn something. Memory is not a straight line. It bends, it blurs, it belongs to more than one person. In these letters I spoke of my mother, her fight, her smile, her hands braiding my sister's hair, but I barely spoke of my sisters at all. Lynette, the firstborn, Samantha, the lastborn. The one our mother loved most, though she would never admit it and the rest of us knew it anyway. Samantha was closest to her. Even now she resembles her, the same eyes, the same quiet strength. When she read these letters, she noticed. She called me, her voice was gentle. Can I correct something? Mama passed when I was in my second year, first semester. I had placed it after her graduation. She placed it earlier. Who is right? Maybe both of us in our own way. But her memory is the one that counts. She was there, living it, feeling it, closer to it than I could ever be, so I changed it, not just the date. To honor this truth, the story does not belong to me alone, it belongs to all of us. Lynette, Samantha, Maya, Brittany, all the women carrying what came before. Thank you, Sammy, for reading, for caring, for correcting me with love. You look like her, you know, more than you realize, and now this book does too. An apology without changed behavior is just noise, and even a real apology can come too late. So don't wait. The silence you break today is a door that might still open. That is how you own a mess, not just the ones you made, the ones you didn't know you were carrying. It's the only way to clean it. With love, Dad, Letter 8, Walking Taller Than Your Fear, Volume 1, The Architect, My Love. There is a night we don't talk about much. A night when I learned something about fear that I still carry with me. Your mother and I were young, new in love. The kind of love that makes you do foolish things, like walk across Mandela Bridge after dark just to be together a little longer. We were laughing. The city was loud around us. Taxis, street vendors, the hum of Joburg at night. Her hand was in mine. Then a man appeared, out of nowhere. His hand was in his pocket, his eyes were hard. I didn't register it at first. I was still laughing, still young, still thinking the world was the kind of place where things like this didn't happen. Then the gun came out. Give me your bag. She froze. I stepped forward. No, man, that's not a real gun. Stupid. The moment those words left my mouth, I knew it was stupid, but I said it anyway. A second man appeared. Snatched her bag, her manuscript for her practical exams, her identity documents, everything, and ran. I ran after him. I didn't think, I just ran. Then the gun fired. The bang was huge. The world went silent. For a moment there was nothing, no rain, no bridge, no sound. Then I heard her scream. I froze. My body remembered things my mind had buried. It remembered the scorpion, the dark, the poison traveling up my leg, the thought that I was gone. It remembered the snake, the freeze. Mzenzi grabbing my arm and pulling me out. It remembered the shame, the boy who froze, the boy who could not move. I stood there frozen while she screamed for my life. Here is what I did not see then. The freeze was not the end. After the bag was gone, the men were gone, the rain was falling. She was crying, holding me, asking if I was okay. I didn't answer. I just stood there frozen, the rain running down my face. Later I walked home, flip-flops on wet pavement. The rain had stopped. The streets were quiet. Her hand was in mine, but I wasn't holding it. She was holding me. I didn't speak. I didn't have words. Walking home was its own kind of courage, not the heroism of movies, the quiet courage of continuing, of not letting the freeze become permanent, of putting one foot in front of the other even when your body is screaming at you to stop. Fear I carry is not mine alone. I believe it was passed down to me for sure. My grandfather walked with his head down. He learned that a wrong look, a wrong word, a wrong step could end everything. He taught my father to walk the same way. My father drove trucks across the country. He never drove too fast. He never drew attention. He never gave them a reason to stop him. He taught me the same. Walk quiet, keep your head down, don't let them see you, don't let them have a reason. That was survival, that was the freeze, not failure, wisdom, but it was also a cage. The same freeze that kept my grandfather alive kept me from speaking when I should have spoken, kept me from moving when I should have moved, kept me small when I needed to be large. I see the courage in you, my love. That day at Clearwater Mall when we couldn't find girls' shoes in your size for the choir finals. We went shop to shop, nothing, your face fell piece by piece. Then I suggested the boys' shoes. You looked at them like they were a foreign language. You were unsure. uncertain how your friends would react. Your mother was uncertain too, but you made the decision. You wore them. When we dropped you at school early, you were nervous, fidgeting, then your friends started showing up. Some of them were wearing the same style, the boys' version. I saw the excitement rise in you like the sun coming up. You ran to them. I have to go. You guys won the cup. That evening the vibe was different. Lovely. You glowed. That's courage, my love, not the loud kind. The quiet kind that wears what fits and runs toward friends. You will feel fear. Many times, in many forms, your body will remember things your mind has forgotten. You will freeze when you should run, or run when you should wait, or say something strange when you should stay silent. That's not weakness. That's your history talking. The question is what comes next. After the freeze, do you move? After the scream, do you breathe? After the gunshot, do you walk home? After the tears, do you take the interview? After the scars, do you become a person who helps others with theirs? A person can recover. A person can rebuild. A person can take the electric shock of a 6-year-old's fear and turn it into character, take a gunshot at 23 and turn it into a story about love and survive. I watched the love of my life break down and cry in an interview, and then watched her become a financial advisor for the leading bank in South Africa. A person can walk tall, not because she's never been afraid, but because she knows fear intimately and chose to move anyway. That is the inheritance I want for you, not fearlessness, fear wisdom, the ability to read your fear, to know when it's trying to protect you and when it's trying to trap you. The ability to freeze when freezing is survival. The ability to move when moving is the only way forward. The ability to walk home when there is nothing else to do. Your grandfather walked home. My father walked home. I walked home. You will walk home too, not because you are not afraid, because you are and you walk anyway. That is the courage of this country. The courage of people who have been told to disappear, to be quiet, to freeze, and who keep walking anyway, who keep speaking, who keep showing up. Who keep building something that outlasts the fear. The other day your mother called, panicked. There was a rat in the ceiling. They'd been scared the whole day, imagining it coming down, imagining the worst. When I got home I laughed, not at them, at the situation. I said, think about it. When you see a rat you jump, but when it sees you it runs the other way. It's as scared of you as you are. You're imagining a threat that doesn't exist. That's what fear does. It takes a small thing, a sound in the ceiling, a creak in the dark, and builds a movie in your head. The rat is just a rat, running away, living its life, but in your mind it's become a monster. You'll do this too, we all do. The question is whether you'll let the movie play or remember that most of what you fear is just running away. Next time fear rises, do not fight it, do not ignore it, do not let it drive. Pause, one breath. Ask yourself, what is my body trying to tell me? Is this fear protecting me, or is it trapping me? If it's protecting you, thank it. Let it do its work. If it's trapping you, move, one step, one breath, one foot in front of the other. That's how you walk taller than your fear, not by pretending it isn't there, by carrying it with you and walking anyway. With love, Dad. Letter 9, The Storm Inside You, Volume 1, The Architect, my love. Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean during a storm. I have. Once, as a boy, my father took us to the coast. Not fishing, just watching. The waves didn't ask permission. They arrived, massive, indifferent, relentless. The water churned grey and violent. For a moment, it felt like the storm owned everything. Like the world had always been this way and always would be. But my father held my hand as we stood there. His calm in that chaos came from a knowing. He said, watch, it always passes. And it did. The waves tired, the wind quieted. The water that had been raging an hour ago was still the same water, just deeper now, resting, waiting. You have an ocean inside you, and some days the storms come. The real source was older. It was the rage of a boy who watched his father come home silent, carrying weight he couldn't name. It was the fury of a young man who saw his brother treated like a criminal for carrying a plastic bag. It was the anger of a people who had been told for generations that their bodies were suspect, their presence a threat, their existence an inconvenience. The Guardian is not just personal, it is political. It is the part of us that learned to fight because fighting was the only language the system understood. It is the part of us that learned to rage because rage was the only thing that made them see us. But the Guardian does not see the difference between a real threat and a memory. Learning to pause was not just about controlling my anger. It was about learning to see the difference between the threat that was there and the threat that was a memory. It was about learning that not every battle needs to be fought. It was about learning that the rage was real, but it did not have to drive. Here's the thing about the storm, you can't stop it from coming, but you can learn to sail. When the weather inside shifts, pause 3 seconds, just long enough to remember you have a choice. Locate where it is in your body. Name it, one quiet word. Anger, fear, shame, no story, just the label. Then breathe, once, deep. Then ask the captain, what now? That's it. A pause long enough to choose. Here's a simple practice for when the lights come on. 1 pause, 1 breath, just 1. Feel the air go in and out. 2 locate it. Where is this feeling in your body? Tight chest, hot face, hollow stomach, clenched jaw. 3 name it, just 1 word. Anger, fear, overwhelm, jealousy, shame. Don't tell a story about it, just name it. 4 ask it. What are you trying to tell me? Listen, don't answer, just listen. 5 decide, does this need a reply or just a reading? That's it, not to fix it. Not to make it go away, just to read it, just to understand what your body is trying to say. Because once you know what the signal means, you get to choose what comes next. But here's the thing about dashboards, they only work if you're willing to look at them. Some people spend their whole lives driving with the lights on, never pulling over, never checking, just hopping the car holds. Hopping the noise goes away. Hopping tomorrow will be different without them having to do anything different. It doesn't. It never does. The ones who make it, the ones who live well, are the ones who learn to read their own signals. Who treat their feelings as information, not noise. Who pull over when the light comes on. That's what I want for you. Not a life without lights. A life where you know what they mean. The dashboard is how you navigate. But even with all the lights working, you still need to know where you're going. I see the captain in you. When you're about to snap and you catch yourself. When you pause before responding. When you go quiet, not because you have nothing to say, but because you are deciding what outcome you want. That's the captain. Learning to speak, learning to be heard. The storm will come, it always does. The question is not whether you will feel it. The question is who will be driving when it arrives. The storm passes, but the captain doesn't shout. You have to be quiet to hear him, so be quiet. The storm will rage regardless. You just need to decide who's driving, with love. Letter 10, Jumping Anyway, Volume 1. The Architect, my love. For weeks I've been trying to find the right story to tell you about jumping. I searched my memory for that one moment, the big leap, the dramatic edge, the heroic decision. I thought if I could find it, I could teach you something fundamental about courage. But the more I looked, the more I realized something strange. I couldn't find it because I've been jumping my whole life, and I never noticed. Your Uncle Rasta taught me this. Not in words, in a mantra he repeated until it became bone. Take it easy, Rasta. Everything's gonna be alright, it will work out, bro. He would say it when we had nothing. When we were 4 brothers sharing one mattress on the floor of a shack so small you couldn't walk around. When your Uncle Dion was diagnosed with TB and started a 6-month course of medication. When months passed without work, without money, without any sign that things would change. Take it easy, Rasta. Everything's gonna be alright. And somehow it always was. Not because the problems disappeared, because we kept going. Because Rasta's faith became the air we breathed. Because after a while you don't decide to have faith anymore. You just do. It's the only way you know how to be. I remember one night in that shack. The wind rattled the walls. The dark was so thick you couldn't see your hand. Dion was coughing in the corner. Sledge was in Cape Town, sending what he could. Rasta was saying his mantra over and over, quiet like a prayer. I was lying there staring at the ceiling and I thought, this is it, this is where we stay. This is where we end. The voice was loud, the evidence was strong. No work, no money, no way out, but Rasta kept saying it. Everything's gonna be alright. I didn't believe him, not then, but I listened. And somewhere in the dark something shifted, not because the problems disappeared, because I realized we were still here. We were still breathing, we were still together. That was the jump, not a leap, a breath, a decision to keep going when every part of you wants to stop. I don't have one jump story because I've been jumping every day. When we were homeless after COVID, owing rent we couldn't pay, forced to move out with nothing, that was a jump. When your uncle's Sledge, Brittany's dad, got a job offer in Cape Town and had to leave his daughter behind, not knowing anyone, walking into the unknown, that was a jump. When he sent money back to us month after month, keeping us alive while we figured things out, that was faith in action. His jump became our landing. We jumped so many times we forgot we were in the air. There was a smaller jump, one that scared me more than Cape Town or the shack. I had finished the curriculum. 5 years of writing. Hundreds of pages, but I was terrified to show it to anyone. What if they laughed? What if they said it was worthless? What if the 5 years were a waste? I needed someone to read it, someone who would tell me the truth, someone who wouldn't lie to protect my feelings. I thought of your Uncle Melvin. He was the smartest person I knew. He had read more books than anyone I knew. He understood things I didn't even have words for. If he said the curriculum was good, it was good. If he said it was nothing, it was nothing. I sat in the shack, holding the stack of papers, my hands sweating. The voice said, don't ask, he'll think you're foolish. He'll see you for what you are, a warehouse worker playing writer. But Rasta's mantra echoed, everything's gonna be alright. I called Melvin, my voice cracked. I need you to read something, it's important, it's everything I've been working on. There was a pause, then he said, bring it over. That was the jump, not the curriculum, not the call, the vulnerability, the willingness to be seen in my not enough, the trust that he wouldn't use my fear against me. He read it, he said, this is good. This is really good, keep going. That small leap, that one phone call, changed everything. Because it taught me that the jump doesn't have to be big, it just has to be real. People think faith is believing everything will work out perfectly. That's wishful thinking. Real faith is believing that even if it doesn't work out, you will be okay, or that you'll figure it out on the other side, or that someone else will catch you. Real faith is what Rasta had in that shack. What Sledge had driving to the mother city where he knew no one. What Dion had finishing his medication while the world kept turning. What I had when I called Melvin. They didn't see the landing, they just trusted the jump. Your sister Brittany knows about jumps. The way she gave you that iPad, the one your Uncle Sledge, her dad, gifted her. She didn't have to. You were a stranger to her then, more cousin than sister. But she gave anyway, just because you are her little sister. I remember the day your Uncle Sledge bought Brittany that iPad, the glow on her face, I've never forgotten it. We drove together to Florida, waited until school let out and walked you home. She was wearing that little black baby Rasta t-shirt, the one your Uncle Rasta had bought her when she first met you. She was so small she could barely carry you then, but try telling her that. She held that iPad like it was made of light, and I thought, this is what family looks like. This is what love does. That's a jump, not dramatic, not loud. Just a girl choosing generosity over possession, connection over things. She didn't know how it would land, she just jumped. And here, what happened, it landed. In you, in her, in the sisterhood you're still building. Your grandfather understood this too. On those fishing trips to Hearties, 800 kilometers through the dark, 3 days by the water, he didn't know if we would catch anything. Didn't know if we would talk or fight or sit in silence. Didn't know if the investment of time and distance would pay off. He jumped anyway, every year for more than a decade. And what came from those jumps? Not fish, not solutions to problems. Something deeper, boys who learn to speak in the dark. A son who still makes coffee with whiskey and thinks of him. A legacy of presence that outlasts any guarantee. He didn't see the landing, he just trusted the jump. When you stand at the edge, 3 voices will speak. The first is fear. It says, stay safe, stay here. The second is logic. It says, let me calculate the risk first. Let me find a guarantee. The third is faith. It speaks last. It says, you've done hard things before. You are more than this moment. Jump, you'll hear them too, we all do. Most people listen to the first 2. They are loud, they sound reasonable. But if you've been raised in a shack with 4 brothers and 1 mattress and a mantra that says everything will be all right, you learn to listen to the third. Not because you're brave, because you've seen it work, because the people who jumped before you are still standing, because you know in your bones that the landing comes whether you see it or not. Understand this, you don't need one big jump story. You need 1,000 small ones, the kind you don't even notice because they're just how you live. Waking up when you don't want to, trying again when you've failed, being kind when it's easier not to, choosing your sister even when you're not yet close, asking for help when you're scared. Those are jumps, and they add up, they become a life. You will never have all the answers. The water below will always be a little dark. But you have everything you need to jump. You have your Uncle Rasta's mantra in your blood. You have your Uncle Sledge's example, a father who left his daughter to provide for her and who kept providing until we all stood again. You have your Uncle Dion's recovery, proof that you can finish what tries to finish you. You have your sister Brittany's generosity, proof that love doesn't wait for closeness. You have Melvin's quiet belief when you were too afraid to believe in yourself. You have your mother's love, your father's fishing camps, your uncle's sacrifices, your aunt's quiet strength, your own quiet courage in boys' shoes and school choices and moments no one sees. Remember the night you did the math. You took 5 years of work and turned it into a number I never could have named. R522000. Minimum, you jumped 2, you didn't know where it would land. You just trusted that what your father built was worth something. That's the jump, my love. Not knowing, trusting anyway. Take it easy, Rasta. Everything's gonna be alright. Say it to yourself when you're at the edge. Let it be the air you breathe. Then just jump. With love, Dad. Letter 11. Every yes is a no. Volume 1. The Architect, my love. When I was young, I thought saying yes was the way to prove I mattered. Yes to the extra shift. Yes to the friend who needed help. Yes to the opportunity that might lead somewhere. Yes to the weekend I could not afford. Yes to the version of myself that would make people stay. I said yes so many times that I lost count. And every yes cost me something I did not see until it was gone. There was a season when I ran with your Uncle Paul. Weekends we would disappear. Friday night to Sunday night. The road, the noise, the feeling of being part of something. When I came home, your mother would be a bit angry, but I always knew what would smooth things over. She had a soft spot. I would bring her something nice. She knew if I was with my boys, we would just spend the weekend. But the challenge came when I got back, and something came up over the weekend that needed money. Money I had already spent trying to impress friends, then I would have problems. I would have to take credit without telling her so as to cover my weekend mormishes. I discovered too late that credit is a shovel. You think you're digging yourself out, but you're just making the hole deeper. My weekends were costing me double, spending the money I had, then borrowing money I had to pay back. By the time I got paid, I was already behind. Once you are caught in that cycle, it is not an easy place to get out of. Those yesies to the trip, to the drinks, to the performance of being fun were really no's to my future self. No to the rent I would struggle to pay. No to the sleep I would lose worrying. No to the quiet voice that told me this is not sustainable. But the Val taught me the same lesson at full volume. I was walking through Newton Mall when I passed a news cafe. Through the window I saw your Uncle Paul sitting with a group I did not recognize. He spotted me, waved me over and invited me to join them on a trip to the Val, about 2 hours away. Everything inside me said no. The captain was clear, you have no money, no phone, you do not know these people. This is a bad idea, but something else was louder, a voice that said, they will think you are boring, they will think you are broke, they will think you are not fun, so I ignored the quiet voice. I smiled and said yes. We piled into a premium Uber, 2 hours to the Val. When we arrived, everyone jumped out and headed straight into the event, paid their entry, disappeared. I stood outside, no money for a ticket, no phone to call anyone. 2 hours from home, middle of the night, completely stranded. Then the Uber driver came back, the group had not paid him. He was shouting at me, demanding his fare, and I was standing there with nothing to give and no way to explain that I was not even supposed to be there. His face was red, his finger pointed, my stomach dropped. It took hours to sort out. By some miracle, the driver eventually believed me, saw that I had been screwed over too, and agreed to take me back. I still remember the hollow feeling in my chest, the knowing that I had ignored something true and now I was paying the price. That yes cost me a night, it cost me dignity. It cost me the quiet voice I had promised myself I would listen to. Your Uncle Melvin taught me the same lesson in a different way. His place is my second home. I can pop in whenever I need, especially when I need something. This one afternoon I popped by, stuck, really stuck, rent due, nothing in the account. But I was not worried. Melvin always comes through. Always. I made my request. He listened. Then he said, let's take a short walk. We walked, the sun was low, the streets were quiet, and then he said it playful, almost giggling but looking me dead in the eye so I would know he meant it. I have money, but I am not giving it to you. He was enjoying it, not because he was cruel, because he knew he was catching me. I had been taking advantage, not maliciously, just comfortably. I knew he loved me, so I let myself off the hook. That moment changed something. After that, I could not ask him for money without feeling naked. Like he could see right through me and he had chosen to say no, not because he did not have it, but because he loved me enough to stop me from becoming someone I did not want to be. Here is the truth. I had had money the previous weekend. I had mismanaged it. Partying, alcohol, things I am not proud of. And because I knew Melvin was there, my safety net, I let myself be careless. That day he taught me that safety nets can become traps if you never learn to catch yourself. He drew a line and said, I love you, but I will not let you keep doing this. That no was love, that boundary was care. He said no so that I could learn to say no to myself. I think about your mother sometimes. The R30 night. She stood in the kitchen, holding a R30 note in her hand. She had to choose, bread or electricity. Bread meant we ate that night. Electricity meant we had light to cook, to move, to feel like people instead of animals in the dark. She stood there holding that R30 and I watched her face. The math was not complicated. There was no right answer, just two needs and not enough to meet both. I do not remember what she chose, I remember the look. That look taught me something the boardroom never could. Some nights there is no right answer, only the next breath. And the choice you make in that breath becomes the ground you stand on tomorrow. She said no to one thing so that she could say yes to something else. That is what every yes is, a trade, a cost, a choice. The yeses we say are not just personal, they are political. They are the yeses of a people who were told to be grateful for whatever they were given. To say yes to the job that pays less because at least you have a job. To say yes to the friendship that drains you because at least you are not alone. To say yes to the version of yourself that fits in the room because at least you are in the room. I learned to say yes because I was taught that no was not an option. No meant ungrateful, no meant difficult. No meant you thought you were better than you were. No meant you would lose what little you had. That fear was passed down. From grandmothers who said yes to work that paid nothing because the alternative was worse. From fathers who said yes to silence because speaking meant danger. From a country that taught us that no was a luxury we could not afford. I am learning to say no, not because I am ungrateful, because I know what I am saying yes to when I say no. I am saying yes to myself, to the life I am trying to build, to the version of myself that exists only if I have the space to become. You texted me once after I said yes to something I should not have. A few words, you did not have to say yes. I said, I know. You said, then why did you? I said, I do not know, I am still learning. You said, learn faster. You were right, I need to learn faster. Because every yes I say to the wrong thing is a no to you, to your mother, to the life I am supposed to be building. That is the practice, not avoiding the cost, seeing it, choosing it, living with it, and learning to say no before the cost becomes too high. Next time you say yes, pause, ask yourself, what am I saying no to when I say yes to this? What version of myself is dying so this one can live? Is this yes mine or is it someone else? And when you need to say no, say it, not with a reason, not with an apology, just no, that does not work for me. Your no is a complete sentence. You do not owe anyone an explanation. With love, Dad. Letter 12, the SHELVED Heart Volume 1. The Architect, my love, you came to me with something that puzzled you. A boy in your class, the one with the blue eyes, you were doing well, you said. School was fine, friends were fine, everything was fine. And then this feeling you didn't ask for showed up and sat right beside you. Literally, he sits next to you in class. You cannot escape him. I'll be honest, my first response was a joke. I told you your mother already has a headache from relationship drama. We didn't need to add yours to the pile. I told you you're too young to be dating. You looked at me with that expression you have, half amused, half waiting for me to be serious. Then you asked the question that stopped me cold. So what am I supposed to do? Not what should I tell him? Not should I date him? Just, what am I supposed to do with a feeling I didn't ask for? I didn't have an answer right away. I had to reflect. And what I realized sitting there with you is that no one had ever taught me how to answer that question. No one ever told me what to do with desire that arrives uninvited, so I had to figure it out on the spot. Here, what I told you, you don't have to throw the feeling away. You don't have to pretend it doesn't exist, but you also don't have to act on it. Think of the feeling like a visitor at the door. It knocks, you open, it stands there wanting to come in, you have a choice. You can let it in, give it a seat at your table, let it stay as long as it wants, and maybe it becomes a resident. Maybe it moves in and starts redecorating, or you can acknowledge it at the door, thank it for coming, and gently close it. Not because it is bad, because you get to choose who lives in your house. This feeling, this flutter, this curiosity, this pull toward blue eyes is a visitor. It doesn't have to become a resident, you can shelf it. I told you, imagine a shelf. Not hiding, just storing. A place where you put feelings that are real but not ready. You don't deny they exist, you don't pretend you don't feel them. You just put them on the shelf for later, when you're older, when the timing is right. When you have more context, more maturity, more of yourself built. You looked at me and said, that sounds really hard. You were right, it is hard. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever learn, because desire doesn't want to be shelved. It wants to be acted on. It wants to be felt now, fully, regardless of consequences. It whispers, life is short, feel this, take this, don't wait. And sometimes, that whisper is right, but more often it's lying. More often, acting on every feeling leaves you with a pile of broken things you can't fix. The shelf is where you put feelings that deserve respect but not control. I know what it feels like, that pull, I remember it. Her name was Patricia, grade 5, same class. She liked me because I always had good grades, because I had the answers at homework time, and I liked her a lot. In my head so many stories were playing. I knew even then that it was too young, that the feelings were bigger than I knew what to do with, but it was exciting. I asked Mike, your Uncle Sledge's friend, older than me, to type a letter for me on his typewriter. I was scared to ask my own brother. He would have told on me, so I went to Mike instead. He typed it out. I gave it to her. It got awkward after that. Her mother started calling me her son. My mother called her her daughter. We were too young and everyone could see it, so we shelved it, not because we didn't feel it, because the timing wasn't right. We're still friends, Patricia and I talked to her on the phone when I went home last year. All grown up now. The feelings changed. The friendship stayed. That's what shelving does. It doesn't kill the feeling. It just waits until the feeling fits the life you're actually living. This is important, my love. Suppression is pretending you don't feel it, shoving it down, denying it exists. That doesn't work, it just goes underground and comes out sideways. Suppression makes you sick. Shelving is different. Shelving is acknowledging the feeling fully, looking at it, namming it, giving it its due. And then choosing to set it aside because the timing isn't right. Not because it's bad, because you're protecting something more important, your future self. Suppression says, I don't feel this. Shelving says, I feel this and I choose to wait. One is denial, the other is power. One school holiday, visiting your Aunt Lynette in the city. A vendor walked into the yard selling peanut butter. She had already bought me 1 jar, my usual monthly supply. But when I saw that second jar, something in me wanted it. I didn't say a word, I didn't ask, I didn't even look at her. But she looked at me, she saw it. Peanut butter was expensive that time, she hesitated at the price. But she bought 2 jars for me that day, never said a word about it, just showed up. That was her, she saw what I didn't say. She acknowledged the feeling, my want, my need, my unspoken desire, and she acted, shelving her own intent for that money without blinking an eye. She didn't suppress her awareness, she didn't pretend she didn't see. She held the space and then she chose to give. That's the observer in love, not just watching what's there, noticing what isn't said. And then when the timing is right, acting. I see you practicing this already, even when you don't know it. The phone. We set a timeline and you've been patient, but you haven't let me forget. You remind me, you hold me to my word. You set the bar for me as much as I set it for you. That's not impatience. That's accountability. That's you learning that waiting doesn't mean wanting any less. It means trusting that the waiting has a purpose. I wrote about shelving because I believed it was true. But last week, you proved it to me. When you read the introduction, the part about the blue-eyed boy, you texted me, wait, did Mom tell you about him? I said, that's my memory. You laughed. I was in grade 2, I was a little baby, I was so immature. Now I get such an ick when I see him, oh my gosh. What was little Maya thinking? That ick is the shelf working. The feeling is still there, but it's not running you anymore, it's just a visitor, passing through. You didn't even know what your poor little heart was thinking back then, but I understand now. Thank you for sharing. With love. Dad. Letter 13, The Invisible ARMOR Volume 1, The Architect My Love. I learned the cost of weak boundaries in a place where the air smelled of diesel and cardboard. The warehouse was massive, so open you could breathe. Wide concrete floors, high ceilings, a quiet that felt like peace. I was 22, new department, new chance. I wanted to prove something, to show them I wasn't just another body. One day I loaded a whole truck myself, 40-foot container. Box after box, up and down the machine until my arms forgot they had joints. When I finished, some guys stopped working, just stood there watching. Pride, did you pack that whole truck by yourself? I nodded, played it cool. Inside I was glowing, Mr. Magic. Number 1, the problem wasn't the work, it was why I was doing it. I wasn't trying to help, I was trying to be seen. The manager noticed. He'd come by with small tasks, things not in my job description. Hey, can you help with this? And I'd say yes, always yes. I told myself it was strategy, get noticed, get promoted, get ahead. But the tasks kept coming until my days bled into nights. I'd get home, collapse on the bed, and be dead asleep before my head hit the pillow. My body made the choice my mouth wouldn't. That's what happens when you don't set boundaries. You don't just lose time, you lose yourself. And the saddest part, the manager never even noticed I was burning out. I was the only one keeping score. 3 locks guard the gate. I learned which one I had been leaving open. Time. Guard the mornings for what grows you. Guard evenings for who refills you. The rest can wait. Energy. Some people lighten you, some drain you. Your armor decides who gets access. Heart. Not every wound needs public inspection. Let only those who have earned it walk there. The strongest armor is a single word: no. Not no because just number boundaries are not walls. They are the shape love takes when it needs to protect. I didn't understand that until your Uncle Melvin sat me down. His place is my second home. I can pop in whenever I need, especially when I need something. This one afternoon I popped by, stuck, really stuck, rent due, nothing in the account, but I wasn't worried. Melvin always comes through, always. I made my request. He listened. Then he said, let's take a short walk. We walked. The sun was low. The streets were quiet. And then he said it playful, almost giggling, but looking me dead in the eye so I would know he meant it. I have money. But I'm not giving it to you. He was enjoying it, not because he was cruel, because he knew he was catching me. I had been taking advantage, not maliciously, just comfortably. I knew he loved me, so I let myself off the hook. That moment changed something. After that, I couldn't ask him for money without feeling naked. Like he could see right through me, and he had chosen to say no, not because he didn't have it, but because he loved me enough to stop me from becoming someone I didn't want to be. Here's the truth: I had had money the previous weekend. I had mismanaged it. Partying, alcohol, things I'm not proud of, and because I knew Melvin was there, my safety net, I let myself be careless. That day he taught me that safety nets can become traps if you never learn to catch yourself. He drew a line and said, I love you, but I will not let you keep doing this. That no was love, that boundary was care. He said no so that I could learn to say no to myself. Auntie Lynette taught me the same lesson in her own way, though I didn't see it at the time. When I was young, I was scared of her. If we got naughty, she would take a small branch from the tree and beat us on the bums. No nonsense. You knew where the line was because crossing it had consequences. I didn't understand it then. Now I do. She was teaching us that love has edges, that boundaries are not walls, they are the shape love takes when it needs to protect. She was not being cruel. She was being clear. She was showing us that our actions had consequences. That love does not mean letting someone do whatever they want. That sometimes the kindest thing you can do is say no and let someone learn. That lesson was passed to her. She passed it to me. I am passing it to you. The chain does not break. There is a kind of boundary that no one teaches you in school, the one you set with yourself. I remember a night when I was young and trying to impress a group of friends. They were the kind of people who laughed loud, stayed out late, spent money they didn't have. I wanted to belong, so I said yes to things I knew were wrong, yes to the extra drink, yes to the place we shouldn't have gone, yes to the story I would later regret telling. The next morning I woke up hollow, not hungover, worse. I felt like I had betrayed something, not them, me. I had let my own boundaries dissolve just to feel liked, and the liking didn't last. Those friends didn't remember my sacrifice a week later, but I remembered. I remembered the empty feeling in my chest, the shame that sat there like a stone. That was the cost of a boundary I failed to set, and I paid it alone. You have your own version, I know because I've been on the receiving end. I need my hands back, please, I'll text, and you'll reply, nuo, 4 O's, full stop, no explanation, no softening, just no, and I laugh. Because you've learned something it took me years to understand, and no is a complete sentence. You don't owe me a reason, you just owe yourself the truth. I love that about you. Every time you explain your no, you give the other person room to negotiate. You tell them your boundary is a suggestion. If you say, no, that doesn't work for me, the conversation is over. Your time is yours, you don't owe an explanation. I once watched a senior executive quietly excuse himself from a dinner where the jokes had turned cruel. He simply smiled, said, this isn't the table for me tonight, and left. The next day, the entire team carried themselves differently. His boundary became their calibration. People will always test your borders. If you don't hold, they'll keep walking until they're standing where they don't belong. Setting a boundary isn't aggression, it's self-respect. Listen to your gut. If you feel resentment, drained, or smaller after someone, that's your armor telling you something. Pay attention to who gets angry when you set a boundary. That anger is proof you were dealing with someone who benefited from you having none. Your heart has an inner room. Few people should have the key. Protect it. This week, try 2 small practices. First, say no without a because. Just, I can't make that work. Notice the urge to justify, let it pass. Second, do a notification audit. If a person or group chat makes your stomach tighten, mute it for 24 hours. Notice how much lighter you feel. Each evening ask, where did I give away more than I could afford today? Not to shame yourself, just to notice. The world will tell you that real love has no limits, that good girls say yes to everything. That is a lie. Real love begins with wise limits. You are not a candle, you are a fire. Build your gate, guard your inner room. Wear your armor well, my love. It was forged for a queen, not the kind who rules over others, the kind who rules herself. With love, Dad Letter 14, Falling Without BREAKNG Volume 1, The Architect My Love. I remember a morning in Kruger Park years ago. We were driving slowly, the windows down when we saw them, a herd of giraffe moving across the veldt. Their legs moved like they had forgotten they had them, long, graceful, unhurried. Then one of them stumbled, a hole in the earth hidden by grass, the front legs buckled, the massive body tilted. For a moment it seemed impossible that something so tall could fall so completely. I caught my breath, waited for the crash, but the giraffe did not crash. It caught itself, regathered, rose, and kept walking like the stumble had never happened. You were too young to remember that morning, but I have never forgotten it, because that's what resilience looks like, my love, not never falling. Falling and still rising like the fall never happened. Your grandmother was like that giraffe. Not the falling, the rising. Cancer came for her, breast cancer. She went through chemotherapy, the kind that leaves you empty, that takes your hair, your energy, your sense of self. I watched it happen, watched her fight. But here's what I also watched. She kept working, kept cooking, kept showing up, kept her eye on the one thing she had dreamed of for years, seeing her children finish school. She survived long enough to see my sister start university. She passed during Auntie Samantha's second year, but Auntie Lynette carried the torch. Made sure she finished. She made it, she saw it through. I watched her tackle life as if she knew what she was doing. Bills, work, family, church, community, cancer, she handled it all. I assumed she had some secret, some map I hadn't found yet. It wasn't until I was raising you that I understood she didn't have a map. She was figuring it out real time, just like me, just like you will. But she figured it out long enough to finish what mattered. There was a season when I learned this lesson in ways I never wanted to. After COVID, when lockdown finished, we were homeless. 4 brothers, your uncles Sledge, Rasta, Dion and me, owing rent we couldn't pay. They gave us an option, move out and the debt would be cleared. So we moved into a shack, 1 mattress on the floor, 4 of us. A space so small you couldn't walk around. Months without work. Months without knowing where the next meal would come from. And then your uncle Dion was diagnosed with TB. Started a 6-month course of medication. 3 people, no work, 1 shack, 1 mattress. 1 brother fighting to breathe. We never went a day hungry. I don't know how, I can't explain it. Piece jobs here and there. Your uncle Sledge, Brittany's dad, got a job offer in Cape Town. Had to leave his daughter behind, walk into a city where he knew no one because it was the only way to send money back. And he did. Month after month, he sent what he could. Kept us alive until we figured it out. Dion finished his medication. Got a job. Started taking care of me until I could stand on my own. That's what brothers do. That's what resilience looks like in practice. Not speeches, not mantras, just keeping going, finding a way, holding each other up when the floor disappears. My first year in boarding school. First time I had ever spent more than a week away from your grandmother. By Friday, I was standing at the gate, staring at the road, thinking if I could just see her, everything would be okay. I did not have tomorrow eyes, I just had today's ache. So I ran, got caught, of course. Big trouble, the whole school was looking for me. By Monday, everybody knew my name. Teachers, students, everyone. I was famous for all the wrong reasons. But here's what I see now looking back. That trouble taught me something. About consequences, about love, about how far I would go to feel connected. About how a bad thing can turn into a good thing even if you cannot see it at the time. I walked around for weeks with eyes on me. It was uncomfortable. It was embarrassing. But it also built something. Character, awareness, the slow realization that I was more than my mistakes. That's resilience too, not just surviving the big falls, learning from the small ones, the ones that make your name echo in hallways you would rather forget. There was a different kind of falling I haven't told you about. When I was young, I tried to climb a rope in the school playground. Everyone else could do it. They'd shimmy up, ring the bell at the top, slide down with their hands barely blistered. I couldn't get 2 feet off the ground. I tried and tried. My palms burned, my arms ached. I fell over and over onto the hard earth. Other kids laughed. The voice in my head said, "You're weak, you'll never get it, just stop." But something in me kept going, not because I was determined to win, because I hated the feeling of being left below while everyone else was at the top. One day I made it, not gracefully, not quickly. I scraped my knees, tore my shirt, nearly gave up halfway. But I reached the bell, I rang it, and when I looked down, I saw something I hadn't noticed before. The kids who had laughed weren't watching. They had moved on. The only person who had been keeping score was me. That fall, those dozens of falls, they weren't failures. They were the tuition I paid for that one moment of rising, and the rising wasn't about the bell. It was about learning that the ground could hold me and I could stand up again. I see resilience in you, every day. That day on the hockey field when you missed the pass, they stole the ball and the game shifted. I watched you take a breath, reset, come back. You didn't crumble, you didn't quit, you just kept playing. That's the giraffe. That's your grandmother, that's your uncles in the shack. That's you don't see it yet. You think it's just playing, just practicing, just getting through. But I see it. I see the falls. And I see you rising, every time. Falling is not the opposite of standing, it's part of standing. Every time you fall and get up, you build a muscle, not in your legs, in your spirit. You prove to yourself that you can survive the ground, that the ground is not the end. That the rising is always, always possible. The people who make it are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who fall so many times that falling becomes just another part of the rhythm. They stop fearing it, they start using it. The giraffe did not look around to see who saw her stumble. She just kept walking, because the stumble was not the story. The walking was, you will fall, many times, in ways you don't expect, in ways that will hurt. You will lose things you thought were yours. You will fail at things you thought you had mastered. You will find yourself in shacks you never imagined, on mattresses you never chose, with people who are also falling, and you will wonder how you got there. But here's what I need you to remember. The falling is not you. The rising is. The shack is not the story. The brothers who held each other up, that's the story. The TB is not the legacy. The finishing the course, the getting the job, the taking care of each other, that's the legacy. The stumble is not the giraffe. The walking after is. You are the walking after. You always have been. You always will be. Next time you fall, pause after you rise. Ask yourself, what did this fall give me? Not what it took, what it gave. A knowing, a readiness, a tool you did not have before. Then keep walking. The stumble is not the story. The walking after is. With love, Dad, Letter 15. Little Moves, Big Impact, Volume 1. The Architect, my love. In my travels, I was blessed to witness the beauty of our nation. The Drakensberg was not shaped in a day. It was not shaped in a year. It took years of rain, wind, and rivers moving in the same direction, day after day, until even the mountains began to change. The water did not know it was shaping the land. It simply kept flowing. Same path, same patience, same small, persistent movement. I understood the same when I stood before the Orange River. It did not carve its way in a day either. It took years of steady flow, one drop at a time, one season after another, until the earth itself gave way. The river did not hurry. It did not announce its work. It simply flowed, quietly, repeatedly, faithfully. It did not complain. It just kept going. That is how dreams become real. That is how a life is built. I learned this in a warehouse years ago. Same day, same aisles, same routine. A week would pass and feel like one long Tuesday. I was not unhappy. I just was not there. I remember one afternoon standing in that aisle, staring at a box I had loaded 100 times before. The aisle stretched forever, boxes stacked so high they disappeared into the fluorescent buzz above, and for a moment I forgot what day it was. Tuesday, Thursday did not matter. They all felt the same. That is when I knew I was not living. I was just passing time, but I also noticed something else. The small moves I made every day, the way I positioned the boxes, the rhythm of my hands, the shortcuts I had learned, they had made me faster. Not dramatically, not overnight, but over months I had become someone who could load a truck without thinking. The change was invisible while it was happening, but it was real. Uncle Paul taught me the 1% rule. He put it like this: if you get 1% better every day, you are not 365% better at the end of the year. You are 37 times better, because improvement compounds, it builds on itself. 1 page a night becomes 30 books a year. 1 saved rand becomes a habit that becomes security. 1 practice becomes a skill that becomes an identity. You do not feel the 1% on any given day. It is too small to notice. But over time, it is everything. I didn't start reading because I loved it. I started because I was tired of feeling stupid in conversations. Melvin would say something about psychology, about history, about how the world works, and I would just nod, pretending I knew. So I made a rule: 10 pages a night. That is it. Some nights I did more. Some nights I barely made 10, but I did it every night. A year later, I had read 30 books, not because I was disciplined. Because 10 pages is almost too easy to fail. I remember the first night. I picked up a book about something I didn't understand. The words were thick. My eyes were heavy. I almost put it down after 2 pages. But I told myself, just 10, just 10. I got to 10. I closed the book. The next night I did it again. That was the river, not the 30 books. The 10 pages, night after night, carving a canyon in my mind. I see you doing this already. Hockey practice. Not the games. The games are easy to show up for. The practices when you are tired, when no one is watching, when it is just you and the drill and the same movement over and over. That is the river. Your team won a cup. Do you know why? Not because of magic. Because all those practices compounded into something none of you could have built alone. Because you showed up when no one was watching, and then you showed up again and again until showing up was just what you did. When you guys won that cup, I didn't say much. Just hugged you and smiled. But inside I was screaming. Not because you won, because I had watched you earn it. Practice after practice. Drill after drill. Showing up when no one was watching. That is the river, not the win. The water that carved the canyon before anyone saw it. Your allowance taught me something too. You do not spend it all the day you get it. You save. A little here, a little there. Last month you wanted something bigger and you had the money. Because of all the little no's along the way. That's the river. Small choices flowing in the same direction, cutting a canyon you could not have made in one day. Years ago our kitchen tap dripped. Just a drip, not enough to bother anyone. But it bothered me. Every night I would lie in bed and hear it. Drip, drip, drip. One Saturday I decided to fix it. I didn't know how. I watched a few videos, borrowed a wrench, took the tap apart. I made a mess. Water sprayed everywhere. I thought I had made it worse, but I kept trying. Tightening a screw here, replacing a washer there. Small moves. None of them seemed to work, but after an hour the dripping stopped. That one drip, the one I had ignored for months, it wasn't the problem. The problem was that I had let small things slide until they became a noise I couldn't ignore. Fixing the tap taught me something. The small move that seems pointless today is the reason something holds tomorrow. I learned this from reading, from Clear on Compounding, and from Duhigg on Q Routine Reward, from the books I devoured in the shack. But the truth is simple. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become, as Clear put it. When you make your bed, you are voting for I am someone who creates order. When you read 10 pages, you are voting for I am a learner. When you save a little money, you are voting for I am someone who provides for my future self. These votes do not decide the election overnight, but day by day they add up. And one day you realize you are not someone who tries to be disciplined. You are just someone who is. Brittany's father leaving her to go to Cape Town. He did not know if it would work. He did not know if the money would come. He just kept sending. Month after month. That was his river. That was his canyon. Rasta staying up until 2 a.m. watching YouTube, teaching himself welding, electrical work, car mechanics, phone repairs. He did not become a mechanic in one night. He became one by showing up night after night when everyone else was asleep. Melvin, reading when I was watching movies. He did not become smarter by accident. He became smarter by choosing books over entertainment, night after night until his mind was a canyon. They did not know they were carving anything. They just kept moving, same direction, same patience, same small, persistent choices. The river does not know it is carving a canyon. It just keeps moving, day after day, same water, same path, same patience. One day you will look back at all the mornings you could not see, the practice, the pages, the pennies saved, and you will realize you are standing in a canyon you carved yourself. That is the life I want for you, not the view from the top, the knowing that every drop of you made it. Next week, pick one small thing, one page, one saved rand, one practice drill, 1 minute of stillness. Do it every day, not because it will change everything tomorrow, because it will change everything eventually. At the end of the week, look at what you did. 7 small things. That is a river. That is a canyon beginning. And when you feel like you're not moving fast enough, remember, the river doesn't hurry. It just keeps flowing. With love, Dad, Letter 16. Seeing with tomorrow's EYS Volume 1. The Architect, my love, I miss our Florida lake morning walks. You were still small then, maybe 7. Brittany by my side as always, and you, on the other hand, like clockwork, running ahead. The sun still low, the water flat, the early morning air so silent and still that all you could hear was nature's morning symphony as she came to life. You kept stopping to look at the ducks, the ripples, the way the light caught the water. You were not in a hurry, you were not trying to get anywhere, you were just there. I think about that sometimes. About how you moved through the world before the world taught you to rush, and about something else, the person you were already becoming, even then, even without knowing it. If you could visit yourself 1 year from now, what would she tell you? Temporal discounting, as economists call it, is a bias wired into every human brain. It means we value things now more than we value the same things later. 100 rand today feels worth more than 100 rand next year. An hour of scrolling now feels better than an hour of studying that will pay off in a decade. This bias kept our ancestors alive. When you do not know if you will survive the winter, you eat the food now. You do not save for a future that might not come, but you are not an ancestor. You are a girl who will almost certainly live to be old, and your brain's ancient wiring is working against you. The antidote is what I call the expanded now. It's the practice of stretching your sense of now to include your future self, not as a distant stranger, but as you, just later. The person who will inherit the consequences of every choice you make today. When you study instead of scroll, you are not sacrificing now for later. You are taking care of yourself, just yourself at 17 instead of yourself at 13. When you save money instead of spending it, you are not depriving yourself. You are providing for yourself, just yourself at 25. When you choose kindness over cruelty, you are not being nice for no reason. You are building the kind of person you will have to live with for the rest of your life. The future self is not someone else. It is you wearing older skin, carrying the weight of every choice the younger you made. Tomorrow eyes is the ability to see her, to feel her, to care about her enough to make choices she will thank you for. She is watching, my love. She is counting on you. I tested it on a winter coat. Years ago, I had very little money. It was summer. A shop had a sale on winter coats. I walked past the window and saw one I liked. It was warm, sturdy, the kind of coat that could last for years, but it was summer. I didn't need a coat, and the money in my pocket was meant for food that week. I stood there doing the math. If I bought the coat, I would eat less for a few weeks. I would be hungry. But when winter came, I would be warm. The voice in my head said, buy food. You need to eat now. Worry about winter when it comes. But another voice, quieter, said, winter will come. You know it will, and you will be cold. I bought the coat. That winter I wore it every day, and every time I put it on I thanked the person I had been in the summer, the one who had chosen to be hungry so that I could be warm, That's tomorrow eyes, not just thinking about the future, acting for it, sacrificing the now for the then. I think about this whenever I watch you wrestle with your school choices. 3 offers, maybe more. Each one feels like the wrong one when you look at the others. Your stomach tightens, your mind races, you cannot sleep. I think about the La Salle exam. You were so worried, convinced you hadn't studied enough, certain you had messed up. Your mother did not even have the money to get you there. And still you passed. Of course you passed. That worry you carried, it was real, but it was not prophecy. Tomorrow eyes would have told you the exam is not the end, it is just a door, and doors open even when you cannot see them. Brittany could not see it either, when the door closed on her first choice. All she saw was the shut door, she did not know another one was about to open. Tomorrow eyes would have told her, this disappointment is not the end, it's just a redirection. If you had tomorrow eyes you would ask different questions. Not which school is perfect, but which school will I grow in, not what if I regret this, but what if this is exactly where I am supposed to learn what comes next, not which choice is right, but which choice will teach me to choose better next time. The school that felt right yesterday did not change, only your perspective did. Tomorrow eyes would remind you, you are not choosing a life sentence. You are choosing the next step, and you cannot get this wrong, not really, because you will bring yourself to whatever step you take. Uncle Paul showed me what he called a hack. It's simple. You can use it anytime you are spinning. It's called 10-10-10. Ask yourself, will this matter in 10 minutes? Will this matter in 10 months? Will this matter in 10 years? That's it. The thing that feels enormous right now, the text that wasn't answered, the grade that disappointed, the friend who seemed distant, run it through the 3 questions. 10 minutes, probably yes, it stings now. 10 months, maybe, possibly not. 10 years, almost certainly not. That's not to say your feelings are not real. They are, but perspective is not about dismissing pain. It is about reminding yourself, this moment is not the whole story. You understand life in reverse. That's something I've learned watching you grow. You don't see it yet. None of us do when we're in it, but one day you will look back on this season, the school choices, the friendship questions, the boys' shoes, the iPad your sister gave you, and you will see the pattern, the purpose, the love that was carrying you the whole time. You will see that the ache you felt at 13 was preparing you for something at 23, that the fall you took on the hockey field taught you how to get up for something bigger, that the small, boring choices you made when no one was watching became the canyon you now stand in. That's tomorrow eyes, not predicting the future. Understanding that the future is already here in every choice you make today. I remember standing at that gate, 13 years old, desperate to see my mother. If I could have visited myself 1 year later, what would that older boy have said? Probably, you are still loved, you are still okay, the trouble you are about to cause yourself is not worth it, turn around. But I didn't have that voice, I just had the ache. I'm giving you that voice now, not because I can predict your future, because I've lived enough of mine to know that the ache passes, the trouble fades, but the person you become in the middle of it, that stays. You are building that person right now. With every choice, with every pause, with every small move no one sees. Tomorrow eyes just helps you build with intention. Next time you're spinning on a decision, stop, breathe, ask yourself, what would the person I want to be in 10 years want me to choose today? Listen for the answer. It will be quiet, it will be clear, it will be the voice that has been there all along waiting for you to ask. Then choose, not because you are sure, because you are practicing. With love, Dad letter 17. Push or pivot my love, there was a time when I kept pushing something that was already dead. It was after the business ended. The doors were closed, the employees had moved on. Melvin and Donovan had gone back to their lives, but I could not let it go. I kept waking up at 4 a.m., reaching for the phone, checking emails that were not coming. I kept telling myself that if I just worked harder, if I just found one more client, if I just held on a little longer, it would come back. It was not coming back. I spent a year pushing. A year of waking up at 4 a.m. to a silence that felt like failure. A year of checking emails that were never there. A year of telling myself that giving up was weakness, that real strength meant never letting go, that if I just pushed hard enough, I could resurrect something that was already gone. I think about that year sometimes. The year I lost to pushing something that was already dead. The year I could have been building something new. The year I could have been learning something else. The year I could have been present for the people who were still here instead of chasing something that was not. Your Uncle Melvin did not push. When the business ended, he let it go. He did not try to resurrect it. He did not keep checking emails. He did not wake up at 4 a.m. to a silence that felt like failure. He mourned it, and then he moved on. I asked him once, how did you let it go so easily? He looked at me for a long moment. It was not easy, he said, but the thing was dead. Pushing on something dead does not bring it back, it just keeps you from living. I did not understand then. I thought letting go was failure. I thought pushing was strength. I thought the people who moved on were the ones who did not care enough. I was wrong. The business was dead. It had been dead for months. But I kept pushing because I did not know who I was without it. I had built my identity around that thing. I was the co-founder, the integrator, the glue. Without the business, what was I? Just a man who had tried to build something and failed. I did not want to face that question, so I kept pushing, kept the corpse upright, kept pretending it was still breathing. It took me a year to stop. A year of waking up at 4 a.m., a year of emails that were never there. A year of silence that I called hope. When I finally stopped, the silence was worse. Because now I had to face the question I had been avoiding: who are you without the thing you built? I did not have an answer, not for a long time. There is a question I learned to ask myself. It's simple, but it saved me more times than I can count. Is this alive, or am I just afraid to let it die? The difference is everything. A living thing responds, it grows, it changes. It gives back energy, even when it's hard. You can feel it, there's a pulse. A living friendship, for example, is one where both people show up, where the silence between calls is comfortable, not heavy, where you feel lighter after talking, not drained. A dead thing doesn't respond, it takes energy, it leaves you empty. You pour into it and nothing comes back. You wake up at 4 a.m. checking emails that never come. You hold on because you're afraid of what people will say, or because you don't know who you are without it. Pushing on something dead is not strength, it's fear dressed up as hope. Pivoting is the opposite. Pivoting is seeing that the ground is not ready, or the thing is done, and turning towards something that might live. It's not giving up, it's clearing the ground so something new can grow. Once had a friendship I should have ended years earlier. I knew Brian since first year of secondary school. We had been through a lot together, but somewhere along the way, the friendship changed. Every time we spoke, I left feeling smaller. Brian would criticize my choices, laugh at my dreams, make me feel like I was foolish for trying. I kept pushing. I told myself, this is just how they are. They love me, they don't mean it. But the feeling in my chest didn't lie. After every call, I felt hollow. The friendship was dead. It had been dead for years. I was just afraid to admit it. One day I stopped reaching out. The calls became less frequent. The silence grew, and I felt relief, not anger, not sadness, just relief. The weight I had been carrying, the weight of pushing something dead, it lifted. I didn't need to make them wrong. I didn't need to have a fight. I just needed to stop pushing and let the thing die. That's pivoting, not from a business, from a relationship, from a version of yourself that no longer fits. Then came the night of the R62. You needed money for a test. I did not have it. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of not enough pressing down on my chest. I could have stayed there, let the shame win, let the voice be the last word, but something in me shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, just a knowing: if you stay here, you will die here, not physically, but something in you will die. The part that still believes there is more, the part that still dreams, even when dreaming feels ridiculous, the part that knows there is something beyond the life you have been living. So I got up, I wrote emails to schools. I offered them the curriculum I had spent 5 years building. I asked them to consider you. I did not know if it would work. I did not know if anyone would respond. I did not know if the 5 years in that shack, writing words no one would read, would ever amount to anything, but I stopped pushing on something dead. I pivoted. That night something happened that I did not anticipate or expect. A stranger sent R300. A woman asked for help with her child. The post I made in the dark, data running out, not knowing if anyone would see it, it landed somewhere. The seed I had been carrying for 5 years finally found ground. I did not push it there, I let it go. I pivoted, and the ground was ready. I came to realize there's a difference between pushing and pivoting. Pushing is when you keep going because you do not know how to stop, because you have invested too much to turn back, because you are afraid of what people will say, because you do not know who you are without the thing you are pushing. Pivoting is when you stop, when you look at the thing in front of you and ask, is this alive, or am I just afraid to let it die? Pushing is fear dressed as hope. Pivoting is hope dressed as courage. Pushing keeps the corpse upright. Pivoting buries it so something new can grow. Careful with the pivot though. If you pivot too soon, you never learn to persist. You never push through the discomfort that is actually growth. You never learn to tell the difference between something that is dead and something that is just dormant. I have made that mistake too. There were things I should have pushed through, the hard conversations, the painful growth, the discomfort of becoming, but I pivoted away. I told myself it was not the right time. I told myself I was being wise, but I was just avoiding. The pivot is not an escape hatch. It is a way to let go of what is dead so you can tend what is alive. How do you know the difference? I wish I had a simple answer, but I've learned a few questions that help. Does this thing give me energy, or does it drain me? When I think about it, do I feel lighter or heavier? Is there a pulse, any sign of life, any response, any movement? Or am I just afraid of the silence that will come when I stop? If it's alive, even barely, tend it, water it, push through the hard season. But if it's dead, let it go, mourn it, bury it, then turn your hands to something new. You will have your own dead things, my love. Difficult to let go sometimes, yes, I know. Friendships that are over, versions of yourself that do not fit anymore, dreams that were never yours to begin with, paths that ended even if you did not want them to. You will be tempted to push, to keep checking for emails that are not coming, to wake up at 4 a.m. to a silence that feels like failure, to keep something dead upright because you do not know who you are without it. Do not let it go. Mourn it, let yourself ask the question, who am I without this thing? Let the silence be there. Let it teach you the pushing is not strength. The pushing is fear, dressed up as hope, dressed up as persistence, dressed up as loyalty to something that is already gone. Next time you catch yourself pushing, pause, ask yourself one question: is this alive, or am I just afraid to let it die? If it is alive, keep tending it, water it, feed it, push through the hard season. If it is dead, let it go, mourn it. Bury it, then turn your hands to something new. That is the pivot, not giving up, trusting that the ground is ready for what you have been carrying. With love, Dad. Letter 18, Ready Before the World, Volume 1. The Architect, my love, there is a kind of waiting that no one prepares you for. It is not the waiting for something to happen. It is not the waiting in line or the waiting for news or the waiting for an answer. It is the waiting after you are ready, fully ready, completely prepared, absolutely certain, and the world has not caught up yet. I spent 5 years in that shack, 5 years building a curriculum I believed in with my whole being. 5 years of showing up day after day, writing words I knew were true. 5 years of pouring myself into something that no one could see. And for most of those 5 years, no one knew, no one cared, no one was waiting, no one was asking. The world was not ready for what I was building. Or maybe I just was not in the right room yet. Maybe the people who needed it had not found me. I did not know in those years that I was learning something more important than patience. More important than persistence. More important than discipline. I was learning that readiness does not create opportunity. Timing does. You can be ready for years before the world is ready for you. I miss my father sometimes. He drove trucks for years, weeks away, long hauls. When he came home, he sat by the water. He waited for us to speak. He did not push. He did not demand. He just sat there, coffee with whiskey in his hand, watching the dark like it owed him something. He was ready to teach us. He was ready to listen. He was ready to be present, but we were not ready. We were boys with anger we could not name, boys who did not know how to speak, boys who thought silence was strength. He waited, for years, for more than a decade. He did not know in those years if we would ever speak. He did not know if the fishing trips would ever become something. He did not know if the seeds he was planting would ever grow. He just waited. He trusted that the waiting was not empty. I miss your grandmother too. She was ready to rest long before her body let her, ready to let go long before it was time, ready to stop fighting long before the fight was over. But she fought through years when she was ready to stop because the world, her children, her family, her people, was not ready for her to leave. That is a different kind of waiting, not waiting for opportunity, waiting for permission to be done, waiting for the right time to let go, waiting for the moment when readiness and timing finally meet. She waited. She fought, she saw my sister through university. Then she let go. The waiting was not empty. It was full of the thing that would matter when the timing finally came. I learned about waiting from a job I never got. Years ago, I applied for a position logistics administrator. I was perfect for, plus my FETC qualifications made me the perfect candidate. I had the experience, I had the skills, I had done the work before in different places for less money. This time it would be different. This time I would be seen. I waited for the call. Days turned into weeks. I checked my phone constantly. I rehearsed what I would say. I imagined the offer, the acceptance, the new beginning. The call never came. I was angry at first, then ashamed when instead of me they offered the position to Motsatsi. I thought, maybe I'm not as good as I thought. Maybe they saw something in me that I couldn't see. But later I learned something. MJ got the job because she had been waiting for 2 years. She had applied 4 times. She had already trained to step in, built relationships with people in the company. She had been ready long before the position opened. They had already trained her to step in before I joined the department. But the timing, the alignment of their readiness with the company's need had only just arrived. I was ready, but the world was not ready for me. Not yet. That job was not mine. But the waiting taught me something. The door that closes is not a judgment. It is a redirection. I think about the emails I sent that night, the ones to schools you had mentioned, the ones to schools you had not. I was ready. The curriculum was ready. It had been ready for years, but the world was not yet. That night something shifted. Not the curriculum, not me. The timing, the door that had been closed suddenly cracked open. The people who had not been listening suddenly heard. That is not something you can control. That is not something you can manufacture. That is timing. And timing, my love, is a mystery. My thoughts on waiting, it is not passive, it is not empty, it is not the absence of action. Waiting is planting. It is the seed in the pocket, carried until the ground is ready. It is the 5 years in the shack, writing words no one would read. It is the fishing trips, year after year, waiting for boys who did not know how to speak. Waiting is the work you do when no one is watching. It is the becoming that happens in the dark. Do not mistake waiting for wasting. Do not mistake patience for passivity. The seed in the pocket is not dead. It is waiting for the ground to be ready. You were born on 18 July, the same day Nelson Mandela entered the world. He spent 27 years waiting. He did not know in those years that the world was becoming ready for him. He did not know that the seeds he planted in prison would become the forest that shaded a nation. He just waited. He planted. He trusted. When the timing came, he walked out and built something that had never existed before. 27 years. That is almost 3 decades of waiting, of hopping, of being ready while the world was not. And yet when the moment came, he was not bitter. He was not angry. He was not demanding that the world make up for lost time. He simply walked out and did the work. That is the power of waiting well, not just surviving the gap, using it, growing in it. Becoming someone who can walk out and build when the door finally opens. You will have your own waiting, my love. Times when you are ready, fully ready, and nothing moves. Times when you have done the work, built the skill, become the person, and still nothing. Times when you are prepared and no one cares. Times when you are qualified and no one notices. In those moments you will be tempted to doubt yourself, to think you are not enough, to believe the waiting means you are failing. Wonder if you missed your chance or took the wrong path. You are not, you have not. Sometimes the world just is not ready yet. Sometimes the door is not open, even though you are perfectly prepared to walk through. Sometimes the people who need you have not found you yet. Sometimes the moment has not arrived. The waiting is not punishment. It is not a sign of failure. It is not evidence that you are wrong. It is preparation for when the timing finally meets your readiness, and it will, it always does. I remember the 5 years in that shack. I did not know in those years what I was waiting for. I did not know if the words would ever be read. I did not know if the curriculum would ever find its home. I did not know if the seeds I was planting would ever grow, but I kept showing up, day after day, page after page, because something in me knew that the waiting was not empty. The waiting was the work, the waiting was the seed in the pocket, the waiting was the ground being prepared. When the night came, the R62 night, the post, the response, I was ready. Not because I had been pushing, because I had been waiting, because I had trusted that the waiting was not empty. Next time the waiting feels too long, pause, breathe, remember the shack, remember the 5 years, remember the pages no one read. Then ask yourself, what am I planting right now that I cannot see growing? Let the question sit, let the waiting teach you. You are not early, you are not late, you are exactly where you need to be until the world catches up. With love, Dad, Letter 19, Your Own Scorecard Volume 1, The Architect, My Love. The world has a scorecard. It measures money, status, titles, the things you own and the places you are seen. The car you drive, the school you attend, the job title on your email signature, the number in your bank account, the followers on your social media. It tells you every day in 1,000 ways what success looks like and who gets to call themselves a winner. It ranks people, it compares, it judges, it sorts, it separates. That scorecard is a lie. Not because those things are bad, they are not. Money can help, status can open doors, achievement can be meaningful, titles can create opportunity. I am not telling you to reject success or pretend you do not care about making your way in the world. But if you live by the world's scorecard, you will never be full, you will never be satisfied, you will never be enough. Because the world's scorecard has no finish line, there is always more to want, more to chase, more to prove. Someone will always have more money, a better title, a shinier life, a bigger platform, a more impressive resume, and you will spend your whole life running and never arrive. At the end of your life, when you look back, you will not remember the numbers, you will not count the achievements, you will not tally the titles, you will remember the people, the moments, the love. When I look back and ponder about your grandmother, by the world's scorecard she did not have much, no wealth, no status, no titles that would impress anyone, no degrees, no awards, no recognition, just a small house, a big heart, and a faith that never wavered. Just a smile that lit up rooms, just a way of loving that made everyone feel seen. But on her last day, the hospital room was packed, not because we could not get there, because so many others had to say goodbye. People who had been fed at her table, people who had been held by her love, people who had been seen by her when no one else saw them, people whose lives she had touched without ever knowing it. They did not come because she was rich or famous, they came because she mattered. People remember her smile, her love, the way she made them feel, the way she showed up, the way she never stopped giving. That is a different scorecard, and on that scorecard she was rich beyond measure. Same goes for your grandfather. By the world's scorecard, he was just a truck driver, gone for weeks. Never had much to give, no degrees, no titles, no recognition, no awards, but he drove 800 kilometers through the dark to take his boys fishing. He sat by the water, coffee with whiskey in his hand, waiting for us to speak. He asked questions and did not flinch at the answers. He created space for us to become who we were meant to be. On the world's scorecard, he was ordinary. On the scorecard that matters, he was a giant, your uncle's sledge as well. Leaving his daughter to go to Cape Town, walking into nothing, sending money back month after month so we could eat, working jobs no one wanted so his family could survive, missing years of his daughter's life so she could have a future. The world might not have noticed, but we noticed. Brittany noticed, and on the scorecard of love, of sacrifice, of being the one who holds everyone up, he is at the top. Old-timer Mr. Daniels. He lived 2 doors down when I was growing up. He was old. He sat on his stoop every day watching the street. He didn't have much. His furniture was old, his clothes were worn, his car had not moved in years. By the world's scorecard, he was a nobody. But when he died, the street was packed. People came from everywhere, not because he was important, because he had time for everyone. He knew every child's name. He would sit and listen to anyone who needed to talk. He remembered your birthday. He noticed when you were struggling. At his funeral, his daughter said, "My father never measured his life by what he owned. He measured it by who showed up." The world had not noticed Mr. Daniels. But the people who mattered, the ones he had held, the ones he had seen, the ones he had loved, they showed up. That is the only scorecard that matters. I think about the night you did the math. You did not measure me by the money I did not have. You measured me by what I had built, by the 5 years in the shack, by the words no one had read, by the curriculum that was worth something even when no one was buying. You saw a different scorecard. You measured me by what mattered. That night you gave me something I did not know I needed. You gave me a new way to measure myself, not by what I lacked, by what I had built, not by the R62 I could not give, by the R522000 I had already given without knowing it. That is the scorecard, my love. That is the one that saves us. Try look at it like this, my love. Build your own scorecard. Measure yourself by, black circle the people who feel safe around you. The moments you showed up when no one was watching, the times you chose love over winning, the relationships you kept, even when it was hard. The way you made someone feel seen, the things you built that will outlast you, the grace you gave when you had every right to withhold it, the bridges you walked on and the ones you built for others, the windows you became when someone needed to see through, the mirrors you learned to see past. That is the scorecard that matters. That is the one I am using. That is the one your grandmother used. That is the one your father used, sitting by the water, not saying a word. You will spend your life being measured. By schools, by jobs, by friends, by strangers, by the whole noisy world. They will tell you what you are worth and whether you are enough. They will rank you and compare you and judge you. Do not believe them. Not because their measures are wrong, sometimes they are useful. They can tell you things about where you stand, what you need to learn, how you are progressing. They can help you improve, grow, develop, but they are incomplete. They only see the surface. They only count what can be counted. They only measure what is measurable. They do not see the friend who calls at 9 p.m. just to say in Giagawa, Kosa, I am going through the most. They do not see the sister who gives an iPad she did not have to give. They do not see the daughter who does the math and names a number her father never could. They do not see the moments of grace, the choices of love, the quiet sacrifices. They do not see you, not really, not the way that matters. Next time the world tries to measure you, pause, ask yourself, whose scorecard am I using right now? If it's the world's, put it down, pick up your own. Then ask, who did I show up for today? What did I build that will outlast me? What did I give that no one counted? Let the questions sit. You don't have to answer them all, just let them ask themselves. That is how you learn to measure what matters. With love, Dad. Letter 20, The Door Volume 1. The Architect, my love, we have been sitting by the water for a long time now. 20 letters, 20 conversations, 20 moments where I tried to give you what I did not have when I was your age. The tools I had to build myself, brick by brick, while I was already inside the house. You have the observer now. The part of you that watches the thoughts drift through your mind the way clouds drift over the dam. The part that finds the gap between what happens and how you respond. You have the space between, the pause, the breath, the choice to wake up instead of letting the machine drive. You have the dashboard, the signals your body sends, the tight chest, the hollow stomach, the heat in your face, the knowing that your body remembers what your mind has buried. You have the story you tell yourself, the narrator who never stops talking, the voice you can question, the voice you can replace. You have your own lane, the race you run, not the one beside you, the courage to wear the shoes that fit even when they are not the ones everyone else is wearing. You have the glasses, the lens you can clean, the projection you can see past, the clarity that comes when you wipe away what was never yours to carry. You have the mess you own, the apology that heals, the repair that closes the gap, the words that come late but true. You have the fear you walk taller than, the freeze that is not failure, the courage that is not the absence of fear but the refusal to let it be the last word. You have the storm inside you, the guardian who protects, the captain who leads, the knowing that the storm passes and you are still there. You have the jump you take anyway, the faith that does not need to see the landing, the trust that the water will hold you. You have the yes that knows the no, the boundaries that protect what matters, the door you close so another can open. You have the shelf, the waiting room for feelings that are not ready, the knowing that not every visitor becomes a resident. You have the invisible armor, the no that is a complete sentence, the gate you guard, the inner room you protect. You have the falling that does not break you, the rising that comes after, the knowing that the stumble is not the story, the walking is. You have the little moves, the 1% that compounds, the river that carves the canyon, the small, boring, beautiful choices that become a life. You have tomorrow's eyes, the future self who is watching, the choices you make today that she will thank you for. You have the push and the pivot, the knowing when to hold on and when to let go, the trust that the seed is ready for ground. You have the waiting, the readiness that is not wasted, the knowing that the timing is not yours to control. You have your own scorecard, the measure that matters, the life that cannot be counted. You have all of this now, not because I gave it to you, because you already had it, I just gave it a name. You have been building this house your whole life, brick by brick, choice by choice, fall by fall, rise by rise. These letters are just me handing you the tools, letting you know that you already know how to build. I think about the parking lot sometimes, the day you fell off your bike. I could have scooped you up, carried you inside, fixed everything. Instead, I stayed quiet, I waited, I watched you find your own strength. That was the first time I saw who you were becoming. Not the daughter who needed me to fix things, the daughter who could fix them herself. I have been watching ever since, watching you fall and rise, watching you choose your lane, watching you clean your glasses, watching you own your mess, watching you walk taller than your fear, watching you jump without seeing the landing, watching you shelf what is not ready, watching you guard your gate, watching you rise again and again. You are the architect, my love, you always have been. 18th of July 2013. I did not know what that meant when the nurse told me the date. I just laughed. A madman in the delivery room holding his daughter thinking, she shares a birthday with the man who planted trees he would never sit under. Now I understand. I strongly believe Nelson Mandela built his inner world in a cell. 27 years of waiting, 27 years of watching, 27 years of becoming the man who could walk out and build a nation. He built so he could walk out. He built so he could build with others. He built so he could plant trees he would never sit under. That is what the inner world is for, not to keep you safe, not to keep you small, to make you ready, to make you whole, to make you someone who can walk out and build. You have built your inner world, my love. You have the tools. You know how to watch, how to pause, how to choose, how to rise. You know who you are when no one is watching. Now it is time to walk out. Volume 2 is about the outer world. About what happens when you take these tools and walk through the door. About the people you will meet, the relationships you will build, the words you will speak, the circles you will choose. About how the observer sees others, not just yourself. About how the glasses help you see them clearly. About how the story you tell yourself shapes what you believe about them. About how the shelved heart waits for the right time. About how the armor protects you without becoming a wall. About how you build with others. About how you love. About how you let yourself be loved. Volume 3 is about legacy, about what outlasts, about the tree you plant that you will never sit under, about the shade you give without knowing, about the seed that becomes a forest, about the plate that was never extra, about the people who never leave, about what you pass down, about what you carry forward, about what outlasts you, but that is for later. For now, just know this, you are ready, not because you have all the answers. Not because you will not fall again, not because the storm will not come again, it will, it always does, but you have the tools, you have the observer, you have the pause, you have the shelf, you have the armor, you have the scorecard that matters. You have the knowing that you are not the storm, you are the one who sails. You asked me once after a long silence, a few words in the kitchen, "Are you okay?" I almost said fine. I almost did what I always do, but I stopped. I said not really, but I will be. You nodded, you did not push. You just put your hand on my arm for a moment and then you went back to what you were doing. That was enough, that was being held. That is what I want you to know as you walk through this door. You are not walking alone, you have your mother, your sister, your aunts, your uncles, your grandmother's kitchen, your grandfather's fishing trips, the mattress, the shack, the corner, the stockfell, the tree, you have the chorus. The voices that speak through me, through all of us, through the generations that came before and the ones that will come after. You have me, I am not going anywhere. The door is open, my love. You have the tools, you have the knowing, you have the chorus, walk through it. Not because you are perfect, because you are ready. Not because you will not fall, because you know how to rise. Not because the storm will not come, because you know how to sail. You are the architect, you have built the house. Now it is time to live in it. The world is waiting. The outer world is noisy, messy, and merciless. Come sit by the water again when you need to. The door is always open. With love, Dad. End of letter 20, Volume 1. The Architect. Back matter. The Architect's Toolkit. A quick reference to the tools you built in these letters. Keep it close. Use it when the world gets loud. The observer, the part of you that watches your thoughts without becoming them, lives in the gap between what happens and how you respond. If you can hear the noise, you are not the noise. The space between the pause, the breath, the choice to wake up instead of letting the machine drive. The pause is where freedom lives. Stretch it. The dashboard, your body's signal system. Tight chest, hollow stomach, heat in your face. Your body knows before your mind catches up. The story you tell yourself, the narrator who never stops talking. You can question it. You can replace it. The story is not the truth. You are the one telling it. Your own lane, the race you run, not the one beside you. The glance costs you, the race is yours. The glasses, the lens you see through, scratched by old wounds. Yours to clean. We do not see the world as it is, we see it as we are. Owning your mess, the repair that closes the gap, the apology that heals. The mistake is not what you did, it is what you are still doing. Walking taller than your fear, courage is not the absence of fear, it is moving anyway. Courage is not never freezing. It is walking after, the storm inside you, the guardian who reacts. The captain who leads, the storm passes, you are still there, jumping anyway. Faith is not certainty. It is trusting the landing will come. You do not need to see the landing, you just need to jump. Every yes is a no, every choice is a trade. The door you close so another can open. Your no is a complete sentence. You do not owe an explanation. The shelved heart, the waiting room for feelings that are not ready. Not now is not never, but now is not now for a reason. The invisible armor, the boundaries that protect what matters. You are not a candle, you are a fire. Guard your gate. Falling without breaking. Resilience is not never falling. It is rising after. The fall is not the story. The walking after is. Little moves, big impact, the 1% that compounds. The river that carves the canyon. You do not need to be great tomorrow. You just need to be 1% better today. Seeing with tomorrow's eyes, the ability to see your future self and choose for her. You are not choosing a life sentence. You are choosing the next step. Push or pivot, the knowing when to hold on and when to let go. Pushing is fear dressed as hope. Pivoting is hope dressed as courage. Ready before the world, the waiting that is not empty. The seed in the pocket. You are not early, you are not late. You are exactly where you need to be until the world catches up. Your own scorecard, the measure that matters. The life that cannot be counted. The world's scorecard has no finish line. Build your own. The door, the inner world, is not to keep you safe. It is to make you ready. Walk out. The Isaviving, adding your stones in our tradition. Travelers added a stone to a pile. An Isaviving for luck and for the safety of those coming after. Each time you complete a practice from these letters, you are adding a stone. You are building a monument, not for yourself, for the ones who come after. For Brittany, for the children you have not met, for the ones who will sit under the tree you plant today. You do not have to do every practice. You do not have to do any of them perfectly. You just have to show up, one stone at a time. When a thought arrives that feels like the truth, pause, one breath. Ask it 3 questions. Where did you come from? Who benefits when I believe you? What would happen if I just watched? Then write the thought down. Fold it. Add it to your stone pile. When something lands on you, a sharp word, a hard moment, a notification that knots your stomach, pause. One breath. 3 seconds. Ask, what am I feeling right now? Is this real or is the old machine running? Then write down one choice you made today that was yours alone. Fold it. Add it to your stone pile. When you catch yourself telling a story that might not be true, write it down. Ask, what do I actually know? What else could be true? Then choose the story that helps you move. Add the old story to your stone pile. When you stumble, say 3 words to yourself, my fault. Next, then make the repair. Write down one silence you broke. Add it to your stone pile. When fear rises, pause. Ask, is this fear protecting me or trapping me? If it is trapping you, move. One step, one breath, one foot in front of the other. Write down one fear you walked through. Add it to your stone pile. When you feel the edge beneath your feet, listen for the 3rd voice, faith. It says, you have done hard things before. You are more than this moment. Jump, take one step. Write down the jump you took. Add it to your stone pile. At the end of each day, ask, who did I show up for today? What did I build that will outlast me? What did I give that no one counted? Write down one thing you measured that the world would not count. Add it to your stone pile. Your action is presence. Your presence is legacy. The monument holds. Questions for the trail for when you are ready. Let the questions find you. Do not force them. 1. What voice is loudest in your head right now? Where did it come from? 2. When did you last react without thinking? What would 3 seconds of pause have changed? 3. Where do you feel your feelings? In your chest, your stomach, your jaw. 4. What story are you telling yourself that you have not checked is true? 5. Who are you measuring yourself against? What does that comparison cost you? 6. What glasses are you wearing that you did not choose? What would you see if you wiped the lens? 7. What silence are you sitting in that needs to be broken? 8. When did you last freeze? What was your body trying to tell you? 9. When the storm rises, who is driving, the guardian or the captain? 10. What edge are you standing at right now? What would happen if you jumped anyway? 11. What yes have you been saying that should be a no? 12. What feeling have you been suppressing that might need to be shelved instead? 13. Where are you saying yes when you mean no? What boundary needs guarding? 14. When did you last fall? What did it give you? 15. What small thing are you doing every day that you do not notice? What would happen if you did it with intention for 1 year? 16. What would the person you want to be in 10 years want you to choose today? 17. What are you pushing right now that might be dead? What would happen if you let it go? 18. What seed are you carrying that needs ground? What are you planting in the waiting? 19. Whose scorecard are you living by right now? What would your own scorecard look like? 20. What tool from these letters will you carry with you through the door? Acknowledgements. This book exists because of a village, a full reckoning with the inheritance, a monument built stone by stone, generation by generation, hand by hand. To Maya and Brittany, you were the question I never knew I was asking. You are the answer I will spend my life earning. You are the tree I planted in the dark. You are the shade that will outlast me. Every word was written with you in mind. The way you fall and rise, the way you give even when you are not sure, the way you look at me with those puppy dog eyes and say, Daddy, please, pretty please, Daddy, that is the magic I cannot teach. That is yours, always yours. To their mother you carried us through things I still do not know how to name. Your scream on Mandela Bridge stopped me cold and brought me back. The way you held that R30 and did the math and did not look away. You built me. You dressed the man I was becoming before I could see him. To my mother, Sue, you taught me what love looks like in a body. You fought cancer and smiled through it. You named your son Gift and then you spent your life proving it true. You are the living ancestor. I still feel you carrying me, every day. To my father, you drove 800 kilometers through the dark to take your boys fishing. You sat by the water and waited for us to speak. You gave us the silence that holds more than words. You are the bridge, you are the shade, you are the tree that was planted before I was born. To my brother's Sifo Gift, you showed us that you can build anything if you believe it first. Walking away from your daughter to go to Cape Town, that was a jump none of us could have made. You made it. We survived because you did. Rasta, your mantra became our air. Take it easy, Rasta. Everything's gonna be alright. In the shack, on the mattress, through the TB, through the months with no work, you kept saying it until it was true. Dion, the youngest, the one we left behind. And then after COVID, when I could not stand, you took care of me. You finished your medication. You got the job. You carried me until I could carry myself. Melvin, more than a friend, a brother. You gave me language for what I was already living. Without you, these letters would still be floating, unnamed, in my head. Paul, we have been through chaos and come out the other side. The Val, the 4 a.m. walk home in flip-flops, still relevant, still growing, still pushing each other to be better. There is beauty in our difference. To my sisters, Lynette and Samantha, you were there, you watched, you remembered when I forgot. You taught me what showing up looks like. Lynette, the peanut butter, the groceries, the way you told Mom, don't come this month, I'll handle it. Samantha, the way you carry her face, the way you taught Maya to swim, the way you corrected me with love when I got the timeline wrong. This book is yours too. To everyone who carried me when I could not carry myself, you know who you are. The friend who talked me into rubbish and taught me what not to choose. The neighbor who became family. The stranger on the bridge who did not pull the trigger. You are in these pages too. To the ones who taught me how to write without ever holding a pen, my mother who fought to see me graduate. My father who waited by the water. My brothers who shared the mattress. This is yours, I was just the pen. And to you, the reader, thank you for trusting these letters with your own heart. May you find something here that helps you keep building. May you sit in the shade of the tree that was planted before you were born. May you plant a tree that will shade someone you will never meet. May you become the architect you were meant to be. That was always the point. Pride D. Mpofu, Johannesburg, 2026. About the author. Pride D. Mpofu.